I now call this meeting to order.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 1046 et sec, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising in the Star Ledger, El Nuevo Coquí, Haiti Progress, and Luz Americana newspapers, and by distribution to the administrative offices of the Newark Public Schools. A copy of the meeting notice was also forwarded to City Hall for posting. This is a regular advisory board meeting for Tuesday night, November 25, 2014.
Please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of board members, please.
Chair Hassan.
Present.
Mr. Jackson.
Present.
Mr. Lewis. Ms. Mattias.
Present.
Dr. McCreary. Vice Chair Perrello.
Present.
Mr. Rashidi.
Present.
Mr. Sellinger.
Present.
Ms. Baskerville-Richardson.
Present.
Quorum is present, sir. Mr. Lewis present.
I will now entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening.
Motion, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
You have the floor.
I'd like to remove the resolution for the Community Bill of Rights and add the resolution to recognize Quitman Elementary School.
Is there a second to this motion? Motion's been moved by
Ms. Mattias.
Ms. Mattias.
Second by Mr. Rashidi. So this is a motion to amend the agenda. I'm sorry, what was it, Chair?
To remove the resolution for Community Bill of Rights and to replace that with the resolution in recognition of Quitman Elementaries.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you. Before we move on to our next item, I just want to apologize to community members for us not starting our meeting on time this evening. Some of us experienced traffic en route to this meeting. As we move forward, we always will try our best to obviously start our meetings on time, so please forgive us. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we now have a motion to actually vote on the agenda? The previous item that was voted on and passed was just for us to do the amendment. Do we now actually have a vote to adopt the agenda as amended?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Ms. Mattias.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Perrello. It's a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you. We will now have greetings and student recognitions on behalf of the leadership of University High School. So without further ado, we would like to call up Principal of University High School, Regina Sharp.
Good evening, Board Chair, Mr. Rashawn Hassan, School Advisory Board members, families, students, community members, and honored guests. Welcome to University High School. It is a pleasure for the Phoenix family to host the School Advisory Board meeting tonight. As you may or may not know, the motto here at University High School is that we're moving from good to great. And we believe that in order for you to be great, you have to G, give your all every day. R, respect yourselves and others. E, endure through tough times. A, achieve at the highest levels. And T, transform the world around you. Now, I could stand here and list a host of individuals at University High School who are moving on this journey from good to great, but tonight I would like to feature for you our premier academy, our Law Academy. University High School students have the opportunity to complete a 4-year law program, which includes taking classes in the state-of-the-art courtroom, participating in mock trial competitions, and earning college credits towards a paralegal degree. The students have an opportunity to join the law club. In this club, they have opportunities to do extracurricular activities to further their advancement in the career of law. But instead of me telling you about that, I'd like to have you witness a little bit of a demonstration of what they are learning every day when they when they attend their law classes here at University High School. At this time, I would like to introduce one of our most dedicated and knowledgeable teachers. She's also an attorney, and she is the teacher for our law academy. Yes?
We're gonna exit the stage now so that you can.
Oh, so you can see the student. Thank you.
Absolutely. Board members, we could exit the stage now so that we could actually see the program.
Great, thank you. And as you come down, I'll call Dr. Liza Lopez Esquire to tell you more and to introduce our students.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so happy to have you here today and to have you witness the magic that goes on here on a daily basis. First, I'd like to introduce my students and have them take their positions as I introduce them. First, we have Vincent Asante, who is a senior and an athlete. These are all scholars and athletes, by the way. Next is Tashaya Hunter, also a senior, also an athlete as well. Habia Marlin, who will be playing the role of our bailiff. Stephanie Lemers, also a senior. She will be playing the role of a justice in the appellate court. Mr. Isaiah Odom, also a justice in the appellate court and a senior. Daria McClam, who will be playing the role of an attorney, also a senior. Terry Coleman, the only junior who rose to the challenge. Now, as you know, this meeting was not supposed to take place here this evening. We received short notice, and we hosted the meeting this evening on short notice. And so Ms. Sharp said, well, why don't the students do something tonight, to showcase what they're learning in the Law Academy? And I said, sounds like a great idea. This was Friday evening. So I began to feverishly text my students and say, hey, are you interested in doing a moot court? One by one, they started replying, sure, yeah, let's do this, right? And so I text messaged them a short fact pattern. I said, hey, let's argue the case of the shipwreck sailor. You're gonna take this role, I want you to argue necessity, I want you to argue first-degree murder, I want you to argue second-degree murder. Put your arguments together if you can this weekend and bring them in on Monday. Not to my surprise, because my kids are amazing, they show up on Monday with their typed arguments. This is what they did on their weekend. And so between yesterday and today, we sort of tweaked their arguments, and we put together the showcase that you will enjoy this evening. Let's give these kids a round of applause for their dedication. So I'm gonna give you a little blurb about what this case is about so that you're not completely lost when they argue before you today. 3 sailors on an ocean-going freighter were cast adrift in a life raft after their ship sank during a storm in the Atlantic Ocean. The ship went down so suddenly that there was no time to send out an SOS. As far as the 3 sailors knew, they were the only survivors. They had no food or water in the raft, and they had no fishing gear or other equipment that might be used to get food from the ocean. After recovering from the shock of the shipwreck, the 3 sailors began to discuss their situation. Dudley, the ship's navigator, figured that they were at least 1,000 miles from land, and the storm had blown them far from where any ships would normally pass. Stevens, the ship's doctor, indicated that without food, they could not live longer than 30 days. The only nourishment they could expect was from any rain that might fall from time to time. He noted, however, that if one of the 3 died before the other 2 could live a while longer by eating the body of the third. Now, the students will go on to argue their case, and you will see how the case unfolds. So without further ado, I give to you my little chickadees. All rise. Terry. In the matter of the case of the shipwreck sailor, Judge Lemers and Judge Odom presided.
Counsel, state your name for the record.
May it please the court, my name is Terry Coleman, C-O-L-E-M-A-N, co-counsel for the petitioners.
May it please the court, my name is Daria McClam, MC, CLAMB. I am co-counsel for petitioner.
May it please the court, my name is Tashaya Hunter, HUNTER, co-counsel for the respondents.
May it please the court, my name is Vincent Asante, ASANTE, co-counsel of the respondent.
Counsel for the petitioner, you may present your case.
The court erred in not allowing the defense of necessity. This defense permits a person to act in a criminal manner when an emergency situation, not of the person's own creation, compels the person to act in a criminal manner to avoid greater harm from occurring. This being said, Dudley and Stevens both acted in response to their emergent circumstances. The facts of this case prove that these two acted in furtherance of their own safety and can therefore use the defense of necessity. In the facts of this case, it was said that Dr. Stevens indicated that without food, they could not live longer than 30 days. The only nourishment they could expect was only from the rain that might fall from time to time. Therefore, the defense of necessity was triggered because time was running out for the sailors. It was day 25, there was still no nourishment, and Brooks, the third sailor, was extremely weak. So he understood the emergency and came up with a solution to draw lots and that the loser be killed and eaten by the other two. Both Dudley and Stevens agreed. The next day, lots were drawn and Brooks lost. At this point, Brooks objected and refused to consent. However, Dudley and Stevens decided that Brooks would die soon anyway, so they might as well get it over with. After thus agreeing, they killed and ate Brooks. 5 days later, Dudley and Stevens were rescued by a passing ship and brought to port. Dudley and Stevens had no other choice. Even though Brooks withdrew his consent to being killed, he did so after he lost his very own agreement of drawing lots because he already knew of the dire circumstances at hand. He knew that if he did not win, he would be killed, and he still went on to propose the agreement. Yet, when faced with the loss, he refused. This is unacceptable. Dudley and Stevens have the right to use the defense of necessity because, for one, it was Brooks' idea. Two, they were all in an emergency situation, so this permits them to act in a criminal manner pursuant to the defense of necessity. And three, Brooks offered the solution to the emergent situation. In summary, the 26th day, the lots were drawn and Brooks lost. Dudley and Stevens killed Brooks and then ate him. 5 days later, day 31, they were rescued. According to Stevens' indication, from the day they were shipwrecked, they could not live longer than 30 days. That being said, there will be no one to rescue on day 31 because they would have all died if Dudley and Stevens did not eat Brooks. Finally, to avoid greater harm from occurring, Dudley and Stevens were permitted to act in such a manner because they were in an emergency situation. Therefore, the defense of necessity is therefore proven in the case of the shipwrecked sailors.
Counsel for the respondents, you may present your case.
My opposing counsel is arguing that this is a case of necessity. However, this is not a case of necessity. Necessity is when an individual reacts to a situation in order to protect life. The group of settlers had a 30-day time frame in which they could go without food and water. On the 25th day, they agreed to draw lots and the loser would be killed and eaten to save the remaining two. Brooks, being the weakest person, lost. Though there was a legal agreement, Brooks was murdered without his consent. Just because an individual is weak and on the verge of dying, that does not allow you to take their life. It was unnecessary for him to be killed. Even though this was a life or death situation, this crime was premeditated and the sailors had intent to perform such an act with no legal reasoning. According to well-settled law, necessity is not a defense to homicide. Therefore, these predators need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Thank you.
Counsel for the petitioners, you may proceed.
In the lower court, Dudley and Stevens were convicted of first-degree murder. I am here to prove that first-degree murder was not the appropriate legal charge to be applied in this case. It is my contention that second-degree murder was the appropriate charge. Second-degree murder is defined as an intentional killing that is not premeditated nor planned out. In this case, the killing of Brooks was intentional but wasn't planned out. The sellers came to an agreement and acted on that agreement the very next day, so there was no time for planning. Moreover, the record below is clear that Brooks was the one that suggested that they all draw lots and that the loser be killed and eaten by the other two. This was a binding agreement that was made prior to knowing who would lose when they drew the lots. Therefore, the killing of Brooks was not planned out. Instead, it was a result of an agreement that was suggested by the deceased. This leads me to my next argument, which is consent. Consent is an agreement to do something or engage in some action. In this case, there was consent along for binding legal agreement. Brooks gave Dudley and Stevens consent when the three all confirmed that the oral agreement was a good idea. The respondents may argue that Brooks then went back on his offer. However, the offer was already accepted, so could not completely withdraw his consent because a binding agreement was formed. There was simply no going back at this point. With that said, Your Honors, we hope you take our arguments into consideration and reverse the prior verdict.
Thank you, counsel.
Counsel, you may proceed.
Now, in this case, two men were convicted of first-degree murder after killing and eating one of the other men in the life raft. My opposing counsel has just argued that this is not a case of first-degree murder, but please allow me to remind the courts of the law and facts applicable to this case. For starters, first-degree murder, by definition, is murder that is planned and done with malice and deliberation. Now, in this case, after a shipwreck, these three men were stranded on a life raft for 25 days without food, water, or fishing gear. After recovering from this wreck, these men were able to discuss what they would do about the situation. They then came to a consensus that they will all draw lots and the loser would be killed and eaten by the remaining two. After losing, Brooks refused to consent to be eaten and killed. However, the other two passengers, Dudley and Steffens, decided that since Brooks was already weak, they would kill him and get it over with, although Brooks had already made it clear that he did not agree. Both Dudley and Stevens came to the agreement that they would still kill and eat Brooks, although they already knew it went against his will. This case clearly presents itself to involve all the elements of first-degree murder. The first element, the intent to kill, is satisfied because Brooks and Steffens clearly murdered Brooks with deliberation. Second, the element of premeditation in which my opposing counsel has claimed is missing is actually satisfied because the facts are clear. These two men preyed on Brooks' poor health and therefore agreed that Brooks would be the most vulnerable to be killed and eaten. Lastly, they did in fact kill him by their own admission. Therefore, the courts was correct in their findings of first-degree murder. Thank you.
Counsel for the petitioners, you stated that Brooks consented to the agreement. Isn't it true that Brooks was too weak to make a sane decision regarding life or death?
Your Honor, I will not say that Brooks was too weak to make a mental decision because he was the one who initially suggested that they draw the lot. Therefore, he was mentally capable of making a coherent decision.
Thank you.
Counsel, you stated if it was the seller's intent to survive as opposed to causing harm, wouldn't you agree that all the elements of first degree were not met?
No, Your Honor. Although Dudley and Stevens did intend to survive, their need for survival does not justify their act for murder. Regardless of whether or not they committed this act for survival, all the elements of first-degree murder did exist. They did intend to kill Brooks because they acted with deliberation, and premeditation did exist because they preyed on Brooks' poor health to kill him.
Thank you.
Counsel for the petitioner, you stated that the murder was not planned out. In other words, there was no premeditation. Moreover, you stated that the sellers agreed on the 25th day and killed Brooks on the 26th day. Isn't it plausible to infer that within the next 24-hour period that the defendants in fact had time to plan out the execution of Brooks?
Your Honor, Dudley and Stevens most likely did not have enough time to come up with a plan to kill Brooks because the lots were drawn on the 26th day and Brooks was killed on that same day. There was no 24-hour time frame to allow Dudley and Stevens to discuss how and when they would murder Brooks.
Counsel, you also stated that this is not a case of necessity. However, wouldn't you agree that after being stranded for days without nourishment, one might find it reasonable to grant an exception in this case?
Your Honor, there should never be an exception for murder. If we make it acceptable for one, then we make it acceptable for all.
Thank you.
Counsel, thank you for your arguments. We will deliberate and decide accordingly.
Audience, we would like to thank you this evening and enjoy the rest of the night.
To Miss Sharp and the students from University High School, that was awesome. I had the opportunity to come by and visit Miss Sharp in September, and she showed me the classroom, the courtroom that's set up here in University High School. It's amazing that we're able to offer this kind of program here in Newark Public Schools, but more importantly, it's even more amazing to see how well our students can actually sit here and hold their own and engage in serious discourse and discussion about such serious matters and represent themselves the way they did this evening. So please, to the students, keep up the good work, and to Ms. Sharp and the leadership team, please continue to lead our students down the right path. We'll now have the approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the October 27th regular advisory board meeting, the October 21st advisory board business meeting, the October 18th advisory board retreat meeting, and the September 15th advisory board retreat meeting?
Motion.
Second. Seconded by Perillo. This is a motion to approve the October 27, 2014 regular advisory board meetings, the October 21st, 2014 business meeting, the October 18, 2014 retreat meeting, and the September 15, 2014 retreat meeting. Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Matias?
Yes.
Dr. McCreary?
Yes.
Ms. Perillo?
Yes.
Mr. Rashidi?
Yes.
Mr. Salinger?
Yes.
Ms. Bashford-Richardson?
Yes.
Chair Hassan?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous.
We will now move on to our parent recognition. At this time, we're going to turn it over to our board member, Khalil Rashidi.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Good evening, everyone. Each day throughout the district, hundreds of parents are making a difference in our schools, supporting their children's academic successes by volunteering. The Newark Public Schools Board wishes to recognize and express its appreciation to those parents and community members who devote their time, share their talents and resources with children, staff, and administrators to improve the quality of our schools and the lives of children. Each month, this board will continue to recognize parents and guardians who support our district-wide parental involvement program, consisting of activities focusing on parenting, communicating, volunteering, learning at home, decision-making, and community involvement. Nominated by their child's school administration, we are proud to announce tonight's award recipients. First being Mr. Billy Mills, George Washington Carver School. Mr. Mills is the father of 2 of George Washington Carver's scholars, and he supports, encourages, and serves as a role model for them. He volunteers his free time and is always willing to go the extra mile to ensure that they are always striving to achieve excellence. He is a contributing member to the Newark Public Schools and the community by serving as the lead father of the Concerned Fathers program. He is also a member of our new formed Eagles PTSA here at George Washington Carver, as well as one of our classroom sponsors, Mr. Billy Mills. Our next award recipient is Miss Alicia Mack, Brick Peshan Academy. Since 2010, Ms. Mack has been an active parent volunteer at Brick Peshan Academy. She is always willing to assist in anything that needs to be done when called upon. She is very generous and always donates her time and talent to all school events. She is the proud parent of 3 scholars. Ms. Mack is an active member of her church, community, and the school parent organization. Ms. Alicia Mack. Our third and certainly not least award recipient tonight is Mr. Gene Simeon, Ivy Hill School. Mr. Simeon has been active and very helpful at Ivy Hill. He helps with our communication with our French Creole-speaking parents by coming in early to translate for us, staying after school to assist with calls to our parents, and volunteering during the day with lunch duty. He has also assisted Ivy Hill by being a classroom parent and chaperoning some of our events. The Ivy Hill community is very grateful for all things that Mr. Simeon does. Mr. Jean Simeon. Can we give all of our award recipients a big round of applause?
Thank you, Mr. Rashidi, and also thank you to the parents who were recognized this evening for the contributions that they make. Thank you for being active in your children's lives and also at the schools that your children attend. I also want to point out that tonight we honored 2 dads, and usually when we honor the parents, it's usually moms that we're honoring. So me being a father of a student here in Newark Public Schools, I want to recognize that because it's always a great thing when we see males who are involved and actively engaged in their children's lives. So to all parents, keep up the good work, but dads, a big thank you to you for all that you do. We do not have our student representative present this evening, so we will move past item 8 on to item 9, which are the committee chairperson's report. And we will start with our Program and Instruction Committee.
Good evening. The Program and Instruction Committee met on Wednesday, November 12th at 5:30. The board members present were myself, Daniqua Matias, and Antoinette Baskerville-Richardson. We were joined by district staff, Dr. Caleb Perkins, Shawaya Hamilton, Marixa Castillo, Angela Johnson, Sarah Cruz, Dr. Lauren Katzman, Marilyn Mitchell, and Joshua Cohen. The agenda items included field trips, which we regularly review for approval, an update on the Marion Bolden Student Center, an update by Dr. Katzman and Ms. Mitchell on the special education and IEP process. There is a resolution in our packet tonight to vote on a new electronic system for approving, for conducting IEPs, an update on the park readiness for the district, and 2 other resolutions, academic resolutions for approval. On the Bolden Center, Ms. Cruz was proud to announce that the center had revamped their programming. It will now run in 3 different cycles. There are 4 full-time staff members present at the Bolden Center, and students have the option to choose programming that are catered to their needs and wants. The Bolden Center is conducting a strong outreach to increase student enrollment. They have included a bridge program for 8th graders who will be rising to the 9th grade next year. And they are also looking to revamp the media center to get more use out of that. For special education, as I mentioned, we have a resolution to approve the purchase of a new web-based program. We spoke with Dr. Katzman about the compliance rate for special education, and they are working in their department to fill vacancies and to initiate processes to have children evaluated and meet that 90-day compliance rate. For park readiness, Mr. Cohen gave us a presentation. The district is in the process of purchasing devices. Devices will be at a 3-to-1 ratio, 3 students per 1 device. They will be the Google Chromebooks, and they're hoping to be able to use the devices not only for park, but also in the classrooms, on a regular basis. The district is also going to review their policies for bring your own device that currently does not exist. And devices are around $140 each, which will include licenses and insurance. The devices will also be monogrammed with the district's logo so that if any of them did happen to go missing or were stolen, it's identifiable to the district. The meeting adjourned at 7:37 p.m., and there was a consensus from the committee members that all the resolutions presented tonight be approved. Thank you.
Ms. Matias, were there any recommendations coming along with that report?
Yes, the recommendations were for approval.
Board members, you've heard the report coming from our Program and Instruction Committee. Do you have a motion to accept the report?
I have a question. Chair. Okay, last week I had sent to you for review to opt out of park testing, and I wanted to know what's the status of it because I did not hear, of it being said in the meeting.
Well, in the email I mentioned, because we have a little time and the agenda for November was already done and packed, we will be reviewing that next month. I did do some research. We got some guidance from what the state has said. Officially, there's not an opt-out policy, but we are going to review it through committee, and we hope to have something by December, January, the latest.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions for our Program Instruction Committee? Is there a motion to accept the report with the recommendations?
Motion. Ms. Jackson.
Second.
Second by Ms. Perello. It's a motion to accept the Program and Instruction Committee report along with recommendations. Moved by Mr. Jackson, second by Ms. Perello. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Board members, for the sake of time, we have recognition that was kind of separated and moved down further along in the agenda when we amended it. For the sake of time for Mr. Glover and his staff, at this time I would ask if a motion can be made to move that particular agenda item up so that we can present the resolution at this point in time.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I have Ms. Perrello moving. I'm sorry, who was it? Ms. Mathias moving that. Mr. Salinger on a second. There's a motion to revise the agenda. Mr. Chair, how?
To move up the resolution for Quitman Street School to take place at this point in time.
Okay. Motion to amend the agenda in that manner. Moved by Ms. Mathias, second by Mr. Salinger. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Agenda amended.
At this point in time, I'd like to ask Ms. Danico Mathias if she could actually go down to the podium and present this resolution. For those of you who don't know, Ms. Mathias is also a parent here in the district, and her son actually attends Quitman Street School, so I think it would only be right that she present this resolution to the staff today.
So this is a resolution in recognition of Quitman Street, it should say Quitman Street Community School, exemplary blended learning implementation. Whereas GettingSmart.com cited Quitman Street School as one of its 100 schools worth visiting due to its incredible efforts in blending learning. And whereas Quitman administrators and instructional staff have embraced blended learning as a mindset for achieving educational excellence. And whereas blended learning is built into the schedule of each of the students at Quitman, and whereas the blended learning approach is incorporated in the teaching of math, language arts, and science, and whereas Quitman students receive at least 80 to 100 minutes of blended instruction every day, and whereas the use of technology enables the students to be active participants in their own learning while simultaneously providing differentiated instruction, and whereas Quitman has partnered with Education Elements, Core Knowledge, and Expeditionary Learning to provide extensive performance data, and whereas student performance data collected through the use of technology allows the Quitman instructional staff to tailor instruction to individual student needs, and whereas the adoption of the blended approach has resulted in increases in test scores on state-mandated standardized assessments, therefore be it resolved by the Newark Public Schools Advisory Board that Quitman Elementary School is to be lauded for its exemplary implementation of blended learning. Respectfully, the board members. And if I may, just a caveat, I know that Quitman also received a personal note from the superintendent because they had the highest test score gains in the district. So that's another kudos to the work that you're doing.
Thank you, sorry.
Bless. We will now move on to our committee report for our Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Personnel Policy Committee met on November 17th. School board members in attendance included Mr. Rashan Hassan, Mr. Nikwa Matthias, myself, Khalil Rashidi. We were joined by NPS members Vanessa Rodriguez and Larissa Shambal. The meeting began at 5:35 p.m. We had an Educators Without Placement Sites pool update. Currently, there are 187 educators in the pool. The committee reviewed these numbers and discussed why certain individuals remain in the pool for multiple years. The district discussed their updated approach this year to replace EWPS staff who have better evaluation ratings and budgeted vacancies, thus removing them from the pool. The district also discussed focus on ensuring EWPS teachers, even those serving as additional support, are teaching in classrooms within their certification area so that they can be properly evaluated. There was also a question about the substitutes who are teaching and what they are teaching, and we were told that the substitutes are actually teaching from agendas. A question was raised as to whether the district has begun to negotiate the teacher's contract. The district shared that NTU still refuses to come to consultation and that negotiations have not begun. I'm sorry. A question was raised as to the status of the NTA contract. The district confirmed that this contract was ratified in the fall and that we're also working on updates for the Local 3 contract. We were giving a vacancy report. The district shared an updated vacancy report, which now includes the date that each vacancy was created. There are approximately 100 vacancies in the district at this point, some of which principals are not actively trying to fill. The committee then discussed the accountability principals having for their vacancies, the role of long-term substitutes and the impact of vacancies on budgets and how to fill hard-to-staff vacancies. The committee discussed what the board can do to help with the hard-to-staff vacancies. And the district also discussed the programs that they are working on with local universities like Montclair State and Rutgers, and also encouraged the board to get the word out for the availability of math, science, and bilingual positions within the district. There was a brief discussion concerning professional development. Mr. Rashidi introduced a university, Grand Canyon University, who's interested in providing professional development to teachers in NPS. Ms. Rodriguez indicated that Dr. Perkins in the Office of Curriculum reviews professional development opportunities, and that she would review the materials and pass them along to Dr. Perkins for his input. A question was asked as to how the district tracks professional development opportunities. The district shared that they have an online professional development system in Bloomboard, and that the departments and schools offer a variety of other resources, but that they're also looking to collect information centrally on how all teachers fulfill their 20-hour-a-year professional development requirement. There being no further questions, the meeting concluded at 6:30 p.m. So ends my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Board members, you've heard the report coming from our Personnel Committee. Is there a motion to accept?
Good question.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lewis.
I'll bow to.
No.
Two things. Mr. Chairman Khalil, you said that they said that the substitutes was teaching from teacher plans. Who created the teacher's plans and which these subs are teaching from?
That's a good question.
Is there a rep here to answer that?
No, I was under the impression, I'm sorry.
It's who's ever in charge of us. It'd probably be Dr. Perkins.
Dr. Perkins, can you speak to lesson plans?
Most of our schools are working from the approved curriculum, and the approved curriculum includes things as specific as lesson plans depending on the grade level and subject area. I would need to follow up with the specific information that Mr. Rashidi was providing to get you a better report in terms of what teachers he's referring to. That's what I can share at this point. There's an approved curriculum for all subject areas, as this board has approved last November. So that's what they'd be teaching from.
Because my question is, if we have someone creating lesson plans, then we should have somebody to put inside the classroom. So if you can provide this board with that information, or provide the committee with that information, who's providing lesson plans. I'm very concerned about the 12th graders over at Barringer and across the district who are sitting in classrooms in front of subs. And we're talking about it's November 25th. We're almost halfway through the first quarter of the school year, and we still have subs in our classroom. Also, would like to ask for the vacancy plan, Mr. Chair, if we can ask through your committee to Vanessa Rodriguez, what is their plan, vacancy plan, how they plan on filling these vacancies by the end of this year, and also audit how many subs we have throughout the district as of this point.
Are there any other questions?
Yes. I have two questions. First, I want to request that the vacancy report be disseminated to the entire board. Can we do that?
Yeah, I don't see why we can't. We haven't. So just for a note for the record, it's the same vacancy report we used to get when we had the personnel combined with the finance, but we asked for additional information. In the past, it hadn't been because I don't think we ever requested as a board for it to be given to everybody, but we can surely do so.
Okay, I think if I remember correctly, at one time, Ms. Matthias was asking for a very detailed vacancy report.
Yeah.
And I think at that time, I'm not sure if it was to committee or to the board, but I am requesting that that go to the board. And my other question, Mr. Rashidi, for my clarity, you said that there are 100 vacancies and that you said that principals are not trying to fill them, that's what was said?
That's correct.
Okay, was there any reason or rationale? Well, first of all, who said that, and was there any reason or rationale given?
Well, what we were told is that, let me get the exact note. Well, there was a question that was asked by Ms. Matthias, actually, where she asked about how we were retaining. She was asking about our retention rate of our teachers. And we were told that teachers who are being retained with the highest ratings, they're retaining 96% of the highly effective teachers from last year, 94% of effective teachers, 72% of partially effective teachers, and 62% of ineffective teachers. And we were told that, I think that was actually one of the questions, what's the method that the principals are using to keep teachers?
So,
and we're still waiting for some of those answers.
Okay, thank you. So you were told that by district staff, is what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
You were told that, given that information by district staff?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, if you could, Ms. Matthias.
Just for clarification, because I think it may have come out wrong, we weren't told that the entire 100 vacancies weren't trying to be filled. What was noted was that for some school vacancies, some principals aren't trying to fill it. They'll leave that hole in the budget. We did not get clarity on why that may happen. Or why that is happening, but it wasn't the entire 100. They are trying to recruit teachers right now, and they've also, I believe they established a partnership with Montclair University and a couple of the other colleges to create a bigger pipeline for those hard-to-fill positions.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for the Personnel Committee? Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Chair, just one more thing. Was any discussion about any plans of upcoming layoffs as well? Because I know that's been a rumor floating throughout the community that some people receive letters being laid off, like parent liaisons.
No, actually, there was no discussion on the layoffs.
Okay, if we can, if in your next committee meeting, if you can, bring that up as a discussion. Thank you.
Mr.
Dr.
Chair.
McCreary?
Yes, sir. I would actually like to put in a request along with the vacancies. If we can also have an idea of the number, not only the number of substitutes that we have currently, but how long they've been working in that current capacity this school year, and more importantly, if these are the same vacancies that existed last year, or for how long.
Understood. So just for the record, that would basically be a comparison of one, how long that substitute has been in that particular position, and also how long that vacancy has for that position has been there.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, if I may, to Dr. McCreary's point, I think it would be helpful to see the subs kind of broken down by certified teachers that they're using as subs, and then those who just hold the substitute certificate,
title.
so that we can drill it down even further.
As it was reported or stated by Mr. Rashidi, the district did advise that some of the substitutes are actually certified teachers here in NPS that are in the EWPS pool. So it will be important to make sure to make that distinction when that information is pulled.
And also, Chair, if possible, if we could also add to the list, like more of a specific breakdown as to the schools, because Barringer to the date has a lot of subs, and the students are complaining that they're not receiving the material and education required to graduate.
Thank you.
Chair,
There are no more,
yes.
more requests?
One more.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just to be a little more specific on the request in terms of the substitute, I think that after 20 days, that a substitute basically goes into a different category where they're considered, it's a long-term.
Long-term sub.
So I think it's important to know if people specifically who are in long-term positions are not just certified, but if they're certified in the area that they're teaching in long-term, as opposed even to being certified in something else. That's my last question.
Got it. So, Mr. Rashidi, obviously you being the chair of personnel committee, if you could make that the proper request for that report and information to be provided.
Just going to ask that all board members who have the questions, just send them, text me the information, specific questions, so I can present them.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for personnel committee? There being none, is there a motion to accept the report that's been provided by our chair of our program, our personnel committee?
Mr. Lewis.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Perrello. This is a motion to accept the Personnel Committee report along with the recommendations therein. Moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Vice Chair Perrello. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? That motion carries.
I will now have a report from our facility, our operations committee.
Mr. Chair, due to gas leak in the district, our operations committee meeting was canceled, but we have, me and Mr. Barton have sat down and spoke on the phone, and we have come up with agreement that our committee meetings will be on Mondays at 5 o'clock because it fit both our schedules. So we're in the plan of putting the dates together to send to the rest of the committee members. And as far as the agenda items, it's nothing on the agenda that we want to not vote on this evening. We want to approve whatever's on the agenda for this evening for us operations.
Thank you for the update. Mr. Lewis, I would just ask if you could give myself and the rest of the board members a definitive timeline as to when these committee dates will be set. I know there's been a little bit of growing pains with the committee now becoming a standalone committee, but all other committees have their meeting dates already set and scheduled for the rest of the year. So when do you think we can have the actual dates? So the rest of the board members will be aware of it.
I can have the meetings to the rest of the board by tomorrow evening. I just wanted to compare and make sure that there's no crashing on other committee meetings as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Matias?
I do have a question or information for Mr. Lewis. If you can get the paint cycle for the district. I mentioned a couple of months ago that Hawthorne Avenue School is desperately in need of paint, and not just refresher, but they have chipping paint on the walls. I'm not sure how many other schools have that. I know that the facilities team did do a tour, but definitely Hawthorne Avenue, the paint is falling off the walls.
Absolutely. That was also requested when I spoke to Mr. Barton, and we were talking about there's some spring cleaning that's going to happen, and some of the buildings are on the list for painting. I meant winter cleaning, I'm sorry, I said spring, winter cleaning. Some of the buildings are on the list to be painted, such as Hawthorne Avenue and Harriet Tubman Elementary School.
I would also ask that we as a board receive an update. Mr. Barton provided an extensive report over the summer in regards to the changes that were being made within his particular organization. And one thing he highlighted was the reduction of the work backlog. We haven't received an update on that to see exactly where we stand. It's important for us to see if we could find out what the average day to completion is on work orders that are submitted from our schools. In visiting schools, you hear, from staff members that, they put in requests for things to be done in schools. In some instances, air conditioners being placed in schools, and those requests not being completed in a timely manner. Also, a request on our energy initiative savings program. Very important. Facilities obviously continues to be a major topic of discussion. Also, a major focal point of the One Newark initiative, and for that to be a major focal point of that really needs to be something that's in the forefront and reported to our board in a timely manner. So, a report on that specifically. How much money has the district saved with these energy initiative saving programs that have been implemented district-wide? I think Ms. Perello had a...
Yes, it's for Mr. Lewis. I have parents who have addressed me that Barringer right now is cold, that the building is cold. And I just wanted to make sure that you are aware so you could send somebody out to review the building, especially being that we are in a holiday period and the school will be vacant. And also, while we're just touching the topic of Barringer, as far as the boilers, can we also make a request to review all the schools to see if their boilers and heaters are working when the kids come back to school?
Duly noted.
Thank you.
I just sent that text to Mr. Barton as well.
Okay.
And Mr. Hassan, I apologize. One last thing, if we can get an updated, I forgot what they called it, but facilities plan for the buildings that we have now and the ones that have been closed with the overall.
Long-range facilities
The
plan?
long-range facilities
So a
plan.
long-range facilities plan was actually submitted to the state last year. And we did receive it last year as a board, so if we could get that information sent to all board members again. It won't come in a paper document because it was so large. I recall the district had to provide it to us on a CD because the file was so extensive. So if we could have that information for every board member in our package would be helpful.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions for Mr. Lewis? Mr. Lewis, thank you for the report. Is there a motion to accept Mr. Lewis's report this evening?
Motion.
Okay. All right, I had Perello on that, second by Rashidi. This is a motion to accept the facilities report as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now have a report from our finance committee. Our finance operations committee met on, our finance committee met on Monday, November 17th. Members present, myself, Board Chair Rashawn Hassan, Board Vice Chair Ariana Perello, Board Member Donald Jackson, and Board Member Philip Sillinger. Most of the items that we actually discussed during our Finance Committee meeting were already touched upon this evening by Ms. Matthias during her report. They will also be discussed when our school business administrator provides the report on behalf of the district. However, I do want to point out one thing that was a breath of fresh air for us during the meeting. Tonight we have an item, P6, which is actually a rescission of an award for prepackaged hot lunch and breakfast. And with this resolution, we'll actually be rescinding a contract award from a vendor that was put in place to service NPS schools, and the amount of that contract award was $726,700. When this contract was rescinded, it actually allowed the district the opportunity to hire back some additional cafeteria workers so that they can actually prepare the food and meals for our students here in the district. This is something that, you know, has been a major point of discussion over the last few years, ensuring that whenever opportunities we have to provide jobs and to provide security here, that we take advantage of those. I want to commend the district and the staff, our Director of Food Services, for recognizing this and jumping on this immediately. What we now have is a dedicated staff, and I believe it's at Samuel Berliner, if I'm not mistaken, who are actually making hot meals on a daily basis for all of our pre-K students, right? Pre-kindergarten students.
The program is currently serving the newly opened early childhood hubs that are located in, I think, 4 of our buildings. If I remember correctly, they are Berliner, Gladys Hillman Jones, Old Speedway, and I can't, thank you, Chancellor Avenue Annex. So these meals are being provided for the pre-K population.
Thank you. So again, commend the district for obviously recognizing this and taking the appropriate action. And the other item that we actually spent, I would say, 90% of the time discussing during our meeting was actually focused on our electronic board solutions, and that will be covered when the school business administrator provides a report. We did reach consensus during that meeting to come forward with a full recommendation on that particular product, and I will also speak to that after our school business administrator provides a report. In reference to all other items, there were no objections from any other board members who attended that meeting. So we come forward at this time with a recommendation to move forward with votes and approval from all other board members for items P1 through P11 on tonight's agenda. Are there any questions?
I'm not sure what the question. Go ahead and ask it. I'll deal with it. What's the question?
And just for a question for our school business administrator, we have items P7 and P8. One was for the tree trimming, which is item number 8467, item P8. Want to make sure we had the.
You need to use the revised agenda.
Okay.
Because that's, it should
So that
be
was
in your-
removed already from the agenda. And also, I believe P7.
Ask your question again, because I
Did we have additional information
You
for
have-
that
yeah.
on item number 15, which is P7, repair musical instruments, and then item P8, which is tree trimming?
Okay, now I understand. I don't have information at this point in time. Ms. Jones, did you receive these items? Okay. I have not seen these items. Dr. Perkins, musical repair? So for now, I'm going to, since we are now at our formal board meeting, I'm going to make the decision that we remove both items and they will be deferred to the December board since I don't have them present.
What are the items being removed, Madam SBA?
Item P7 and item P8.
So Finance 15, P7, and
Finance 16, P8.
Right.
You have a
Which
motion?
are items 15 and 16.
Yep.
It's easier to get to them that way. See them?
We need,
So let the record reflect that we're removing those two items.
All right, if there are no additional questions, is there a motion to?
Mr. Chair?
Sorry. Yes, sir.
Don't we have to make a motion to move those?
Yeah,
we'll do that when we
make
get to
the
the
motion
voting. When we get to the voting.
We're not
Okay,
voting
understood.
on it.
I'm
We're just
sorry.
taking the reports. Are there any additional questions? None. Is there a motion to accept the report?
Thank you.
Motion.
Mr. Jackson, second by Ms. Matias. Motion to accept the Finance Committee report along with the recommendations. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Finance Committee report accepted.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll have a board chair's report, and I will try to get through. I will get through this as quickly as possible. We'll start off by advising of board member engagement and events. While I did not receive information from all board members, note that board members are always actively engaged in attending events in and out of the community regarding education and other aspects of the community. Okay. Board Vice Chair Ariana Perello and Board Member Marquise Lewis represented our board at the annual citywide parent conference. Our immediate past board chair, Antoinette Baskerville-Richardson, attended the Urban Boards Committee meeting on November 21st, and she was also one of the organizers for the Newark Education Convention that just took place here in the city of Newark on November 22nd and November 23rd. 7 members of our board attended the New Jersey School Board Association annual workshop in Atlantic City from October 28th through October 30th. Board members received training on various topics ranging from the proper budget presentation to execution of the park assessment. Board members who were in attendance, Board Chair Rashawn Hassan, Vice Chair Ariana Perello, Phil Sillinger, Donald Jackson, Danico Matias, Marquise Lewis, and Khalil Rashidi. On October 29th, during the annual workshop convention, a meeting was held with the New Jersey Department of Education Commissioner Dave Hespy and Chief Intervention Officer Matt Matheny. Our board members Danico Matias, Marquise Lewis, Ariana Perello, and I attended the meeting. Our board engaged the commissioner on the following issues and concerns: the progress of Barringer's theme, the attendance of Superintendent Anderson at regular board meetings, the district's park readiness, progress of our board and implementation of the transition plan, and also we also engaged the commissioner in regards to our NJ CUSAC performance and next steps and phases for return of local control to the Newark Board of Education. On Saturday, November 1st, 2014, I attended the annual tie ceremony at Eagle Academy for Boys. On November 13th, the Newark Board of Education served as the host site for the Essex County School Boards Association meeting, which highlighted special education in public school districts. After attending the meeting, the Program and Instruction Committee used the information that was shared and conducted a review of the district's special education policies and referred 3 policies to our district council with recommended updates for immediate revisions and implementation. Board members in attendance were Chair Hassan, Vice Chair Perello, Phil Sillinger, Donald Jackson, Danico Matias, Marquise Lewis, immediate past Chair Antoinette Baskerville-Richardson, and Khalil Rashidi. On 11/15/2014, I attended the New Jersey Delegate Assembly along with board members Donald Jackson and Danico Matias. Our board supported and voted in favor of 3 key resolutions that will impact the way the New Jersey School Board Association lobbies for the creation of legislation to support our needs as local boards of education. On 11/18/2014, I visited Barringer's theme and met with Principal Mincy and Assistant Superintendent Brad Haggerty regarding the progress of school conditions at Barrington. I also visited Barrington on 11/20 to attend the parent meeting that was hosted by Principal Mincy and staff. Members of our board also attended the Newark Education Convention that was held on 11/22 and 11/23. Our future engagement and events at our next board meeting, committee chairs should be prepared to present on their particular goals from their committees. Also, board members will be able to provide a progress and update on our implementation of the transition plan and any additional adoptions of board goals and strategic governance for the 2014-2015 school year. Board and NPS collaborations. Tonight, we will hear about the board's initiative, which is a collaboration with the district to move toward an electronic board governance process. This process will help us shift to a more efficient, and operate more efficiently. And this will allow for more preparation time for board members prior to monthly board meetings. The system shift will also allow for greater community engagement and transparency going forward. The adoption of this tool will be the first phase of the board's plan to drive more critical and inclusive discussions during our board meetings. This initiative was brought forward by the Newark Board of Education and was presented through our Finance Committee. And as stated earlier, we'll hear more about this during the district's presentation and report this evening. So ends my report as board chair. Are there any questions from board members regarding the report? If not, is there a motion to accept the report?
There's a motion to accept the report moved by Mr. Jackson, and that's second by Ms. Matthias. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Carries.
We will now have our, the next item we have is the resolution for our Hour of Code Computer Science Education Weekly. And this is going to be introduced by the chair of our Program and Instruction Committee.
What is this committee?
Good evening. This is the resolution for Computer Science Education Week / Hour of Code. Whereas Computer Science Education Week highlights the crucial role that computer science plays in transforming our society and how computer science enables innovation and creates economic opportunities. Whereas computing technology is an integral part of culture and is transforming how people interact with each other and the world around them. Whereas computer science is transforming industry, creating new fields of commerce, driving innovation in all fields of science, and bolstering productivity in established economic sectors. Whereas the field of computer science underpins the information technology sector of our economy, which is a significant contributor to United States economic output. Whereas the field of computer science is a foundational science for the digital age. Whereas the informational technology sector is uniquely positioned to help with economic recovery through the research and development of new innovations. Whereas providing students the chance to participate in high-quality computer science activity exposes them to the rich opportunities the field offers and provides critical thinking skills that will serve them throughout their lives. Whereas all students deserve a thorough preparation in computer science education, including access to the qualified teachers, technology, and age-appropriate curriculum needed to learn computer science at the elementary and secondary levels of education. Whereas computer science education has challenges to address, including counting computer science classes toward high school graduation requirements and providing professional development for computer science teachers. Whereas participating in an hour of code during Computer Science Education Week may provide opportunities to demystify the fields of computer science and encourage more students to take up further studies of computer science. Whereas the fields of computer science may have equity barriers to address, including attracting more participation by females and underrepresented minorities to all levels and branches. Whereas Grace Murray Hopper, one of the first females in the fields of computer science, engineered new programming languages and pioneered standards for computer systems which lay the foundation for many advancements in computer science. And whereas the week of December 8th, in honor of Grace Hopper's birthday, is designated as Computer Science Education Week, now therefore be it resolved that the Newark Board of Education supports the designation of Computer Science Education Week, December 8th through December 14th, 2014, encourages schools, educators, parents, and policymakers to participate in Computer Science Education Week by enabling their students to participate in the Hour of Code, encourages schools, teachers, researchers, universities, business leaders, and policymakers to identify mechanisms for teachers to receive cutting-edge professional development to provide sustainable learning experiences in computer science at all educational levels, and encourage students to be exposed to computer science concepts. Encourages policymakers to remove barriers that prevent computer science classes from being counted as math or science credits towards graduation requirements, and encourages opportunities, including through existing programs for females and underrepresented minorities in computer science.
Is there a motion? Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
Motion.
Mr. Jackson.
Second.
Who was that?
Lewis.
Mr. Lewis. It's a motion to accept the resolution for the Hour Code, Computer Science Education Week. Moved by Mr. Jackson, second by Mr. Lewis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to give an update. Mr. Cohen did tell us at our program and instruction meeting that they are developing some programming within the district so they can expand on the Hour of Code. It's not just a once-a-year program, but they're going to be looking to doing coding classes for children throughout the district all year long.
Thank you. Can we now have the district report?
I know. Good afternoon, ladies and or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Advisory Board Chair, staff, community, parents. This evening, the superintendent's report will include, as always, we will start out with our framework for success. If you've been regularly attending our meetings, you've seen these, and we talk about various areas upon which we focus. Tonight, we will be focusing on systemic conditions for success, specifically having to do with electronic board materials. For some time, the board has had a desire to transfer us to an electronic platform for our documents. And the purpose of that transition would be a number of things. One, to decrease the cost of materials, both in the preparation and distribution. There's a significant printing cost associated with the number of paper documents that we provide. The distribution by courier of those documents to get them to board members in a timely fashion for review and consideration so that they can discuss the items at their public meetings, and also to decrease staff time spent in preparing these materials. One of the things that is not up there, which is also another decrease in cost, is the cost of storage of all of this paper. It takes up a significant footprint of the district office, which is also space for which we're paying a relatively high square foot price. So those four things will result in our having an increased efficiency, being able to deliver to board members and committee members. It will increase the amount of time that the members will have for review of all materials prior to meetings, and be able to see what the content is, have discussion, have questions answered, and be fully informed at their public meetings. The third piece under this, or purpose, is the fact that it will provide accessibility of materials to the community. This has been a issue that the community has raised on more than one occasion, and that we want to address. So we will be able to share our agenda, our minutes, our approved resolutions, and our meeting video. So these were the purposes we were looking at when we wanted to look for what the potential alternatives were out there. So we went through a process, and we had both staff who are involved in the board process, which is more than just Ms. Jones and Mr. Saligay, who we see here on a regular basis. Ms. Hamilton's involved, I'm involved, my office is involved, and the Department of Purchasing spends a significant time on the agenda, as does Dr. Perkins' office with the curriculum pieces. So we had demonstrations of 3 different types of software over the course of October and November for both the board, the entire board, and staff involved. During that point, we ranked the board, the individual packages based on some of the things they had. Some are more user-friendly than others. Some provide the kind of support that was provided. You will see up there something called Meta, M-E-T-A, search feature. That is a feature that will allow board members, while they're sitting at a meeting or even sitting at home reviewing items, being able to search for information. If, let's say, for example, we're voting on a capital project to repair one of our schools. Other large school districts around the country may have done that work and may have discussed it at their board meeting, and it's publicly out there. So at any given time, we can pull together statistics on the fly for the board, as well as information. These features will also allow the board to communicate on items and on material. It is secure in the sense that the information is not going to be available to everybody, but there are very specific parts of information at very specific times in the board schedule that will be made available to the public. It will increase your access to information and decrease, in fact, the need for all these paper agendas that we print, depending on how many people come to meetings. People will be able to bring their devices and be able to see the information right there in front of them. It will allow for comparison. So we talked, once we had all seen the demos, we talked with each other. We did actual online survey amongst staff and the board members, and we came up with recommendations. And of course, price was something we considered. And the final recommendation that is being brought forth from the Finance Committee, as indicated by Board Chair Hassan, is Board Docs Pro. Board Docs is a highly used program that is already established throughout the country and has very specific structure that will allow for note-taking. It will allow for quicker turnaround on minutes, which is one of the challenges we've had. And we tonight will vote on a resolution that will approve this process, and we hope to move forward rather quickly on this and have it up and available. So that concludes the superintendent's report. There is another piece to the report. Rob, can you pull up the SOA, please? Okay. I don't think, can you make it bigger? Okay. Okay, is that the first page? I thought there was a cover page. Okay. This evening, as required by statute, I will be presenting to you the statement of assurance. As you can see, the header on this form indicates NJQSAC. NJQSAC is the process by which districts are evaluated for their effectiveness. And it is also the process by which the Newark Public School District can return to local control. There are 5 areas which are assessed on the Statement of Assurance. Districts must score 80% or greater in those 5 areas to ensure return to local control. The SOA, many of you might remember last month we talked about the district's improvement plan. So QSAC is divided into, it is a 3-year cycle, and there's something that happens every year. For 2 years, you complete the SOA, and it has to be certified by both the board chair and the chief school administrator, in this case, State District Superintendent Anderson. And it has to be submitted to the state QSAC website by November 15th. We will not be presenting this late. We have asked for an extension based on the timing of our board meetings. So our submission, once presented to the board tonight, voted on by resolution, will be uploaded to the QSAC website before November 30th, and we will be considered on time. That is, so the SOA process occurs 2 out of the 3 years. Every 3 years, a district receives a full assessment on NJQSAC, which is called a site visit, where they actually come in, look at evidence of the items that have been discussed and that you will see tonight. So in 2 of the 3 years, a district is required to complete an SOA in each of the 5 areas. And you will see the specific questions we're asked to score on tonight and where we self-assess ourselves. So, Rob? Okay. All right. This is the summary page of this year's Statement of Assurance. As many are familiar, we already are in local control of operations and have been for the last, since 2007, so the last 7 years. This year, we are moving towards transition and are currently in the transition period for fiscal management. So, and instruction and program, governance, and personnel are areas that we are working on. You will see that based on this assessment for this year, staff have scored us at 100% for instruction and program, 90% for fiscal management, 100% for governance, 100% for personnel, and 85% for operations. So in the area of instruction and program, we've made significant movement based on the fact that we have now a totally adopted curriculum. on Common Core, and have curricula in place for all of our content areas. Is that correct, Dr. Perkins? Okay, so we've made significant progress there. In the fiscal management area, we have been high performing since probably 2010 and have been consistently so, which is why this year we are being allowed to transition to local control on finance. And we lost a couple of points in finance and we lost a couple of points in operations. And I'm going to show you where we lost those points and why. In the area of governance, we've been able to score, I think, consistently high performing, except for probably our next to last assessment, where we scored a 74%. So we're back on high performing with our governance and our board. And in the area of personnel, we have been consistently high performing for the last, I think, 3 assessments. Go ahead, Rob. So in the area, this is an example, and this document will be up on the district's website if it is not already so. I think it is. You will see that on the left-hand side, we have questions associated with the area of instruction and program. And I'm not going to go through all of the questions, but you will see that the first question says, reports to the District Board of Education and the public on the performance of all students on the New Jersey Standardized Testing System, as indicated in New Jersey Administrative Code 6A, :8-3.1. The district can deem to score itself either 1 or a 0. 1 means that yes, we have done that, and 0 means that no, we haven't. If you score a 1, you get the points. We will be required to provide evidence of that when the state comes in to visit for our next CUSAC review, which I think is probably going to happen in 2018, school year 17-18. If we are unable to provide that evidence, that is where you will begin to see us lose points. So evidence in that case would be things like agendas, sign-in sheets, the board presentation that was done on test scores for the year, things of that nature. So you see that as we go forward, we start to talk about instruction and program. They ask in question 7 at the bottom of the page whether or not we have English language arts Common Core state standards and for English language arts and literacy. I think we adopted those in June 2010 and also again in September 2012 as required in administrative code. When you review this document, you will see that all questions are supported by code or statute and actually indicate the months that things should have occurred, and district is responsible to meet those timelines. Rob, I'm not sure if you can get to fiscal management. Let's skip through curriculum, so because it's self-explanatory and everybody can see that. So in fiscal management, we don't go, stop, gonna go up. Okay. So in fiscal management, we have a number of areas. For example, question 5 says that we have line item transfers or appropriations of surplus for new programs and initiatives contained in the original budget certified for taxes, excluding transfers for health and safety related items and awards of additional state aid or grants. Basically, they're asking, do we do line item transfers? Do we do appropriations? I will refer you to the agenda. Every month you get part of the agenda that talks about transfers and modifications. That's where we show that we do transfers when necessary on a monthly basis. They also want to know, do we maintain separate, in item 7, do we maintain separate accounts and keep records by grants? So IDEA, which is the disabilities grant, is significant. Title I for the at-risk population is significant. We've had ARA, education job funds aid, and any other grants we receive. Separate accounts need to be maintained in the district's accounting system, and they are actually in Fund 20. One of the things it asks is, do we expend our federal funds consistently with the approved indirect cost rate? We do that. You will see item number 10, that do we approve purchase orders approved only by the purchasing agent and issued in advance? I'm going to say that word again. In advance of goods received or services rendered and encumbered for the full contractual amount. There are no confirming orders. As a district, we are unable to say that. We have schools, we have offices that procure goods and services before we have created a signed, approved purchase order. That cost us, I think it was 15 points on 10. That one question cost us 10 points. Lose another point, and we're down to 80. We will fall below high performing in finance. We must, we will, and you'll hear talk about it next month when I present the audit, modify the situation with confirming or unauthorized purchases. Rob, can you get to operations? Let me also point out that while we score ourselves a 1, that does not necessarily mean that when we provide the evidence that the state will agree with our scoring. And it is the state's score that stands. So in operations, we collect our reports next month, no, actually in January. Ms. Saeed and Mr. Ingo. Ms. Syed is from the Office of College and Career Readiness. She will report out on HIB and bullying. Mr. Ingo will report out on violence, vandalism, and that particular report that we have to give to the state. We are to report to the board twice a year on that, in January and in June. We will do so in a timely fashion. We have to provide for the safety and protection of students through the annual review, development, move that out please, Rob. Development and implementation of a memorandum of agreement with law enforcement. We do have such a memorandum of agreement. The county prosecutor is very committed to this, as well as all the police chiefs in the county. We've all come together and signed a memorandum of agreement in how we will work together as partners to facilitate the protection and safety of our students. Go down to the 0. What zeros, Mr. Jones? I beg your pardon? Go ahead, because I didn't hear the question. Go ahead, Rob. Okay. This particular item, number 16, right, says that we forward all student records, including disciplinary records, to the school district to which a student has transferred within 10 school days after the transfer has been verified by the requesting school district. We forward the disciplinary records with regards to suspensions, expulsions, and non-public schools. We are unable to meet that 10-day deadline. We are working towards making that happen, and we'll continue to work towards that. So that's one area where we lost points in operations. I think there's one other, Rob. Okay, that's the only one. That particular question, ladies and gentlemen, cost us 15 points. No, there are 2 others. Okay. Oh, that's what you were talking about, Mr. Jones? Conducts all required trainings for school district employees. We have to work at that. If you look at both the statute 18A and the administrative code 6A, It speaks specifically to the types of training we need to offer, and we are not quite there. Number 2 also speaks to the submission of NJ Smart files by the due dates, and that our error rate is less than 2%. Our error rate is not less than 2% for the 13-14 school year, which is why we've answered a 0 to that question. So those 3 questions in operations took away 15 points. One more question, and we would be considered less than high performing. So with that, you see what the kinds of breakdowns are that are in our statement of assurance. You see what kind of point system exists, and it's not that, oh, I did some of the training or I did most of the training, so I should get the point. There are no half credits. It is all or nothing. So it is extremely important that everybody, schools, offices, community, staff, understand the importance of NJQSAC if we are to return to local control. It is the state's indicator or barometer by which we will be judged. If we do not ace it and make sure we have our points and make sure that we are meeting all the statutory requirements, it will jeopardize the ability for the district to return to local control. That concludes my presentation for this evening. I will take questions. Board members, we can go back to the stage.
Madam BA, I first just like to obviously thank you for making this presentation to us this evening. I would like to highlight, obviously in looking at this the statement of assurance and reviewing our progress and performance in regards to NJQSAC, I don't recall seeing any particular item that was reviewed this evening that this board has direct control or influence over when you talk about the execution of it. These are specific items that really fall under the purview, responsibility, and authority of the state-appointed superintendent of Newark Public Schools. Any failures on those fronts are not failures of this board, but are failures, in my opinion, of the chief academic officer of the Newark Public Schools District. As we continue to work and build capacity for the return to local control, it does not matter who the superintendent is of Newark Public Schools, but whoever it is, they have to have the same level of commitment that this board and members of the community have in regards to the proper performance and compliance to this QSAC performance that we had presented to us this evening. I can say, being in the second year of my term serving on this board, there was one item in particular that's been presented last year, and that was the aspect of confirming orders. So if we have this item as a repeat offense, what kind of what kind of protocols are we putting in place to prevent ourselves from continuously walking down this path? We can't continue to take the same actions day by day and expect to get different results. Confirming orders is not something that's uncommon in school districts. However, understanding the fiscal condition of Newark Public Schools, we need to have our arms wrapped around that and making sure that nobody's in a position where they're out here soliciting services or getting any services without those things being approved, and especially by this board. A confirming order, if, to my understanding, is just that, where someone did not follow the proper procurement process and did not submit the proper paperwork, services were rendered, and then the payment happened or the paperwork got processed on the back end. So there was some good news about some of the things that we heard, but at the same time, there are some major concerns from where I sit as chair of this board. When we talk about the personnel piece, mainly for professional development, this is something that we continuously hear on a daily basis. What are we doing from a reporting standpoint? If we were to ask the district right now how many training hours were dedicated to professional development under this particular topic, what reporting mechanisms do we have in place right now to specifically advise board members of how many employees we have that completed the training and how many hours have we completed for each employee? You know, for us to be the largest school district here in the state of New Jersey, we should be leading the pack in these things. But every time we see presentations like this and talk about the actual progress, it seems like we're just far behind everybody else. This board is committed to working with the district, to making sure that we have the right plans in place. And Madam BA, happy to hear from you that you do have the recommendation that you're gonna be bringing forward next month. And we do look forward to hearing that from you. And if there's anything that our board needs to be doing, then obviously we are dedicated and committed to doing that as well. I don't have any other comments at this time. I'll open up the floor to my board colleagues for any questions or comments regarding the presentation. We can stick to the QSAC piece right now. And lastly, if there's any questions about the electronic boards, we'll handle that last.
Chair Hassan, I just want to say that I agree with just about everything you said, but just for clarification, I don't think when we look at QSAC scores statewide that we're necessarily far behind everyone else. There are districts that aren't under state control that do have, lower. Not to say that the items that we don't have improvement to make, but we're not the worst.
I wasn't saying our QSAC scores being far behind, but talking about in terms of reporting and the technology use and things of that nature. I think you and I sat in the QSAC review this year, and I recall when the question was asked about presenting information for professional development, we still had these big logs or sign-in sheets to present to the state. So those are the kind of things that I'm talking about. For us to be, larger school district as we are, I think we should be further along in terms of utilizing technology and things of that nature, so we keep ourselves in the proper position in terms of reporting, et cetera.
Absolutely. I just wanted to clarify that on the QSAC scores.
Absolutely.
I'd like to also provide one point of clarity for the board. When we talk about training, it is not just the professional development that's done for our instructional and professional staff. There are other kinds of training that have to occur. Bloodborne pathogens, training on pest management, training on fire drills and lockdowns, all of these kinds of things that need to occur in many different groups. They need to occur with staff. They need to occur sometimes with students. They need to occur with parents. They need to occur with the community. So the challenge the district sometimes faces because of our size is how do we ensure that that is consistently delivered across all of those groups and across the different kinds of training that we have to provide. And I will tell you that it is a great deal of work, and a number of people are working on it. We're not there, but we're working, we're looking at some online training capacity where people take training sitting at their computer. so that you can log that in and tally that. The professional development piece for teachers, I think we have really a great grasp of that. We are consistent with that thanks to the assistant superintendents, thanks to the instructional staff. It is when we have to do the other kinds of training that are not necessarily related directly to the classroom, getting access to staff to do that, and the consistency of applying that we face the challenge. But I think we're up to it and can do it.
So I have a question in regards to that. If, as an example, if a member of the district staff went to receive training off-site, as an example, or attended a college, something along those lines, what policy do we have in place that mandates the time frame in which that employee must submit that paperwork to the district? As an example, completion of that particular course, et cetera.
We do have tuition reimbursement that exists for a number of our union groups. The NTU, which is our teachers union, has tuition reimbursement. So there are timelines associated with that. In terms of people traveling on district money, there is a requirement that we provide what is a justification of that trip and also a report when we come back. We have the ability within our human resource system to track training, which is a significant undertaking because it requires staff to submit their certificates. All of us who have professional certifications, as a BA and as a qualified purchasing agent for the district, I'm required to take continuing education credits. I also have a certification in food services that, even though I haven't done that for a while, I maintain that certification. General counsel has continuing education and deputy counsel that they must do as a result of maintaining their licenses to be able to service the district. So how we do that and work towards that is something that we need to look at. There are a number of programs that are available out there that will track that for us.
Any other questions from board members?
Yeah.
Mr. Jackson.
After looking at the last report and seeing our scores with CUSAC, and we scored pretty well, and to follow behind Ms. Wilson's comment that we made strides in our performance, I just wanted to get one point of clarification. When we were talking about when is the next assessment with CUSAC?
It's usually every 3 years. So remember, we're still waiting for a set of scores. We had a full assessment in April of 2014. The DIP we just did were scores from actually 2012, right? So we're waiting for that full assessment to come back when we'll probably do an interim process for corrective action. But if we had our last assessment in April of 2014 and it is a 3-year cycle, my estimation is that we would probably receive another full CUSAC assessment in the 17-18 school year.
Okay, so I want to add to that also, Mr. Jackson. I think that was a kind of a confusing point for a lot of board members, myself included, because we actually had an interim review that was conducted around the same time that we had a full assessment. And that was one of our focal points of the discussion that the board members who met with Commissioner Hespy during the workshop actually discussed. And we requested a timeline from the commissioner and for him to actually expedite the results from our full review. If you look at the scores from that interim assessment in a full review, the area that we made vast improvements on and really blew out the water was really in the area of personnel. And in the discussion that we had, obviously we thought it was very important from a board standpoint that we start to position ourselves for that. So we developed and established our personnel committee so that we could start having line of sight in that area and kind of hit the ground running if in fact that is the next area that we will receive governance of for the district.
Okay. And my next question is going to be out of reach for the business administrator, and it's going to require me to go to Trenton. So,
Okay. She may know.
oh no, trust me.
Board, are there any more discussion on the QSAT?
I'm sorry, I
Ms.
had a
Battaglia?
question. These still have to be verified by the county, right? Do you know when they come in to do their assessment?
In this case, they're not going to come and do an assessment. When you do a statement of assurance, what you are saying to the state is, we are certifying that in the 13-14 school year, we did these things. So if they come for the assessment in 17-18 and say, show me your evidence for 13-14 that you adopted a curriculum.
Gotcha.
Dr. Perkins will be responsible to provide that evidence, right? When they come and they do the assessment, usually they do the current year that they're coming. So if they come, or they also ask sometimes for the best and most recent evidence that you have. So if they come in 17-18 and we have not done it in 17-18, my expectation would be that we would go to 16-17 and say, here is the evidence.
And then my other question was, I know the HIB report, Ms. Saeed does, it said Omir Bertan was doing what report now?
If you're talking about electronic violence and vandalism, which goes with the HIB report, Eric Engel, the Director of Security, will be providing that. And the board has been getting monthly copies of the electronic violence and vandalism report, Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Okay. You got to tell me yes, because that's my expectation, and if it's not happening, I need to know. Okay.
So is it possible, I don't know which committee that will fall under, but just so, I know the last time we got the security report, it wasn't all that detailed. If we can work with him to give something with a little bit more information so the community can really dig in.
Duly noted.
So even with that report, I know there a few last year, I think it was the district did the training for restorative practices. We started to have that discussion in the community and here amongst this board about the school to prison pipeline and how suspensions are impacting males of color in urban communities. Students who are suspended have a higher probability of dropping out of school and also possibly being incarcerated. So there's many studies out, and the district obviously went down the path to implement restorative practices. I don't know, one point of discussion was that we were seeing less incidents, even from a suspension standpoint, other things. We saw a reduction. So I don't know, I guess my question on that matter is, when we're having those kind of issues, obviously the first step we don't want to see is student suspended, because we know that that impacts the amount of instruction time that the particular student has. We want our students to be in school, we want them in the classroom, we want them learning. But if it's something that we're not putting down as a suspension, et cetera, but it's an incident, how are we still kind of tallying that? Is there like an unofficial mechanism that we utilize, or can we get further details, maybe Mr. Lewis, through your committee on that one?
I can tell you that from the early review of the data, we are still seeing some decreases. What I think is important for the board to understand is that restorative practice affects or impacts the results or the ultimate conclusion of what happens. It does not change the fact that an incident occurred. So an incident is an incident, but restorative practice is the methodology by which you resolve the incident.
Got it. So nothing's changed in terms of reporting or logging those is just what we do at the end result, as opposed to suspending a student or sending a student for counseling, as an example. But thank you.
We are extending restorative practice throughout the district. It started in the high schools. We're working through our elementaries and ensuring that our staff are receiving additional training. That's one of the challenges we're looking at, to train everybody on the practice.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm also going to make a recommendation through the Program and Instruction Committee that we do a school climate survey. I know a lot of schools do that along with their harassment, intimidation, and bullying processes, just to get a view from students, parents, and teachers on what they think the climate actually is in the building. And then the district uses that information to better address student needs.
Got it. Thank you. Any additional questions?
Can I make one statement?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think it's important to note for this board that there are 3 state-operated districts. We are the only board that has finance returned to local control. Camden's considered state ops? It's kind of a different process, right? All right, I'll stand corrected. 4, we are the only board that has financial control returned to local control. I think that's something for us to be proud of. I think it is something that we need to lead the way on and show how it's done. So, you know, yeah, we don't have governance, we don't have personnel, we don't have the other things, but we have 2 major categories, and that is a significant accomplishment for the district, the board, and this community. So I think that's important.
And I would just also add to that, that the process for developing the transition plan was obviously something that was new for from the board standpoint, and also for the state, being that we are the first school district under state intervention to get local control back in the area of fiscal management. And for the record, the initial drafts of that particular transition plan was something that derived from this board. In all likelihood, as you know, other school boards that are under local control progress and go down that path of fiscal management, the work that this board presented in those initial phases will likely be utilized as a template when those other boards get to this process. So it is something that we should all be proud of collectively. There are no more questions or comments regarding the CUSAC piece. Do any board members have any questions or any comments around the electric board material solutions? Ms. Matthias?
I have a question, but not about that piece.
What's it about?
It was stated in the October packet that we were going to get the student data trends and JAS trends this month.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it was split out. Something was supposed to be reported back from the state in November, and then there were some additional results that were reported we wouldn't have until December. Yeah. I would defer to Ms. Hamilton on that one to advise if...
I'm being told it's December.
Oh, December, okay.
Yeah, so I think some things are released, if I remember correctly from the presentation in November. But I think it's going to take us some time after the release to look at it and then be able to present to the community. So one item, if I remember correctly, was being released in November, and one item was being released in December. Dr. Perkins, is that correct? So in terms of that, I think there might have been some understanding that we were going to get it right in November, but if it's just released, you know, we've got to look at it, we've got to do an assessment, but I would think that it would be timely released to the board thereafter.
Okay, so I just think the packet may not have intentionally, but it might have been a little misleading, because when it said release date, I was reading it as the release date from the district, not the release date from the state.
If there are no additional questions or comments, we'll accept this report coming from the district as information. And we do have a resolution for the electronic board materials that we will adopt. We'll now move on to our voting items. Is there a motion to vote on items 1 and 2 for program and instruction?
Move it.
Mr. Lewis?
Second.
I have second, Vice Chair Perillo. It's a motion to vote on the program instruction items. Number 1, resolution for approval of in-state, out-of-state field trips. Number 2, resolution for the health, phys ed, and athletic. Moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Ms. Perillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain?
Abstain.
That was Mr. Jackson abstaining. Motion carries.
We also, next items we have are finance and operations.
I think we need a motion to delete items 15 and 16. Sure.
And I also see that we have item 6 here, which is for district lease agreements. Again, we haven't had any support and documentation provided to the board. So there's a motion at this point in time to vote on the finance and operation items, excluding item 15, item 16, and again, at the board's pleasure from last meeting, item 6, which is for district lease agreements.
Okay, this is going to be, is there a motion?
Motion.
Ms. Matthias.
Second.
Question
Second by
on
Mr.
that motion?
Rashidi. Conversation?
No, I had a question on the motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so on number 6, the district lease agreements, does anyone know when we will have some information on this?
I do apologize because it was my understanding that the lease documents were provided. So I've got to go back and check and see why they weren't transmitted to the board, because my full expectation was that the board had them already since the last meeting. Okay, so I will check into that because I know they were provided.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the motion?
All right, so we had a motion pending to exclude finance items 6, 15, and 16, and vote on the rest of them as a package. Moved by Ms. Matthias, second by Mr. Rashidi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, motion carries. Is there a motion now to vote on finance items 1 through 5, 7 through 14, and 17 through 19?
Motion.
Vice Chair Perillo.
Second.
Second, Mr. Jackson. Roll call, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Ms. Matthias.
Yes.
Dr. McCreary.
Yes.
Ms. Perillo.
Yes.
Mr. Rashidi.
Yes.
Mr. Salinger.
Yes.
Ms. Bashful Richardson.
Yes.
Chair Hassan.
Yes.
Motion's carry. Finance items 1 through 5, 7 through 14, 17 through 19 approved. Remaining items of policy.
Board members, we were also provided this resolution this evening for the electronic governance process for the presentation that was provided to us this evening. However, the resolution was not added to the agendas. So to formally adopt this, we would need a motion right now to amend the agenda to add this item so that we could formally adopt it.
Motion.
Mr. Jackson.
Second.
Ms. Matthias. This is a motion to amend the agenda to include the resolution for electronic governance transition. Moved by Mr. Jackson, second by Ms. Matthias. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay. Carries. The agenda is now amended to include this resolution. Would you like to read it?
Yes. The resolution, I'll read into record as follows. Resolution for electronic governance transition. Whereas currently the district prepares board and committee meeting materials through an extensive paper-intensive process, consuming significant staff and financial resources. Whereas transition to an electronic governance platform would decrease the cost of materials preparation for board and committee meetings through decreased printing costs, courier costs, and reduce staff time. Whereas, transition to an electronic governance platform would increase the efficiency of materials delivery to board and committee members, increasing the time available for review prior to meetings, as well as increase accessibility of information to the community through more rapid sharing of agenda, minutes, and approved resolutions. Pursuant to NJSA 18A-37A, the district solicited proposals from vendors, scheduled product demonstrations for board and staff members, and collected feedback on the demonstration from board and staff members. And whereas all board members reviewed all materials, feedback, and costs and submitted final recommendations, resulting in a recommended award to board docs for the pro package. Whereas the recommendation for award of term contract was reviewed and approved by Shawea Hamilton, Executive Director of Strategic Partnerships, and the Superintendent's Office. Now therefore be it resolved that the Newark Public Schools shall enter into a one-year contract with board docs for the provision of the pro package. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion. If Mr. Jackson, second. Second by Mr. Lewis. Motion in favor of the resolution to adopt board docs. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? That motion carries.
Last and final item we have is coming from our General Counsel, Legal Services, and this is regarding policy 4110.26 for electronic communications by school staff. A copy of this policy was forwarded via email, I think about 2 weeks ago, to all board members. This is something that we actually had discussion and dialogue with the district with last year, and this is regards to the standard process for staff members in regards to electronic communication here in the district. General Counsel, if you could just maybe give a brief synopsis of it before we vote on the item.
Sure, it's a policy that's required by statute. We did have an electronic communications policy, like an acceptable use policy. However, this more refines the policies by which the students and staff deal with social media. It was provided to all boards. Assistant superintendents reviewed it, and Josh Cohn, our instructional technology special assistant, also reviewed it.
Thank you. Board members, we have a motion to accept and adopt policy 4110, electronic communication by school staff.
Motion.
Mr. Matthias?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jackson. All in favor?
A question.
Any opposed or
I had a
abstaining?
question on the motion,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Good question.
I'll wait, I'll hold it till after, it doesn't affect my vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so any opposed or abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Rashan abstains, motion carries. Mr. Islam, I'm sorry.
So my question is actually a question for the district, and that is, will there be a uniform written notification of this policy to staff members? Because obviously there's many good reasons for staff members to have electronic communication with students, you know, for teaching purposes, you know, coaches who travel with students and all this kind of thing. But just that question, will there be a uniform written communication to all staff members with the entire policy?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as the board adopts the policy, it goes up on the website, so it's public. But as you're aware, anytime there's a policy and you want to hold people to the policy, there has to be training. People have to have knowledge of it. So our office is going to work with Dr. Perkins and Mr. Cohen and how to publicize it and have all staff members available.
Okay, so my question then is not will it be on the website? I guess what I'm asking specifically is, or it doesn't have to be answered right this minute, but I really do want to know how all staff members will receive it. Will they be told to look on the website? Will it be reviewed?
I'm sorry, Ms. Bashford. The second part of my answer was that Dr. Perkins and Mr. Cohen and our office is going to figure out the best way to disseminate the policy and tell all staff members that they have to abide by it. We'll figure out the best way to do that. I don't know if it's going to be through the principal. Ultimately, I guess it's the principal talking to their staff, but also the assistant superintendents supervising the principals, but that's the way we're going to have to convey it.
All right, can we, once that is established, can we please know what that is?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
I don't know if you'll deal with this in the curriculum committee, or we'll figure out the best way to do it.
Thank you.
There are no additional questions from board members. We'll now move into our public participation.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the public participation portion of the meeting. As a reminder, time limits for all speakers will be enforced. There's no sharing or granting of speaking time to others. Speakers must be present when their name is called. All speakers are required to give names and addresses. The public participation portion of the meeting will be limited to 1 hour and 30 minutes. Examples of unacceptable behavior that will not be permitted include, but are not limited to, naming district employees and engaging in personal attacks, slurs, excessive loudness, calling out, generally disruptive behavior, yelling, attempting to disrupt the meeting, or inciting others to do so. Public participation at board meetings is intended to allow individual members of the public the opportunity to address the board and the administration on issues of public concern, not as a forum for two-way dialogue with board members or district officials. The superintendent's designee or chair may respond to questions either at the end of the public participation session, or responses may be provided at a later time. The superintendent's designee or chair may interrupt any speaker or terminate any individual's speaking privilege if the speaker's comments are disruptive or obscene. An individual may be cautioned that a personally directed statement may be slanderous or defaming, and the individual may be liable for his or her statements. Attempts to hijack or filibuster the proceedings, repeated interrupting or badgering the board members or district officials, repetitive and truculent speech, or disregard of the rules of decorum are not tolerated and may subject the individual to removal from the meeting. If necessary, the meeting may be adjourned.
Thank you. First speaker for this evening, student speaker Khadijah Bhatti. Next speaker is Darren Martin, followed by Lauren Williams.
Thank you, Donna. I didn't even have to see your face to know who it was. Good evening, Darren Martin, PTO president at Ivy Hill Elementary School. Let me get right to it.
Mr. Martin, before you, could you please provide your address? Name, address?
106 Ivy Street.
Thank you, sir.
Changed it. You hear that, Mr. Jones? Let me salute the parents that were on it tonight. All the parents that volunteer in this community, I salute them. But I'm biased to somebody from Ivy, so James Simeon, I salute you, brother. I attended a citywide parent conference. It was interesting. They used the theme "Still We Rise." The community engagement people used some interesting terms. This is our moment, they said. I don't know who's the hour. He said from the podium, it doesn't matter whose vision you follow as long as we all end up in the same place. Interesting. And hold each other accountable. It's funny that the community engagement who works under this superintendent going wild would be saying that. It's interesting. Then he attempted, I guess, to try to make a joke or something, make it funny about what's going on with One Newark and this open enrollment by trying to bridge it with basketball wives and keeping up with the Kardashians. It was a horrible attempt at a joke because this is a serious situation. So I don't know, and that's the community engagement department. And it's interesting that they would be talking about we're one and all this other like kumbaya and everything is cool. And the superintendent is not even there to greet the parents. And this is community engagement. So it's really interesting. Then the state PTA also spoke, and they said, this is our time. Parents, we need to stay connected. We need to advocate in the schools. But you get a target on your back when you advocate in the schools, so it's interesting. I think we need to hold the PTAs, the statewide and national PTAs and PTOs accountable, guys. They have more than, their job is not just to get together with people. They need to take a stance on this park, which I'll talk about in a couple of seconds. I haven't heard them say anything, so I will be challenging them on that because I think they need to take some kind of stance. The best part of that conference was parents getting together, which is always a great thing, and they honored Tanya and Charlotte McKinney. That was the best part of the conference. And workshops are always good if they have substance. So Cammie had a little trip to Washington. She got afraid when she saw people in Newark in the audience, sent her flunky Brad Haggerty to ask security to ask people to leave. Then they said it was a security breach, as if she's somebody important or something, and that she was at an undisclosed location, like she's the president of the United States. Just amazing to me. She talked about, when she did do an interview with the one-on-one with that right-wing group over there, these brown bag lunches. She said she did 150 brown bag lunches. I'd like to know when she did them and who those parents she met with. Then she said her staff was doing home visits in Newark on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, we know they hit the Turnpike and the Parkway in 78 before it get dark, so I don't know where she got that from. Then she said that it's 10,000 students that wanted this one Newark plan. Where are those students at? I just don't know where they are. Just amazing to me. I'm gonna wrap up. Last couple of things. Park exam, I'm glad Vice Chair brought that up. Parents should go to changetheStakes.org, changetheStakes.org. You can go on there, you get a copy of a sample letter to opt out of the test. Don't let Hespy scare you. He can't do anything. You are the parent.
Your statement.
Finally, when are the people that work up here for Cammie that get paychecks from her when is doing the right thing for people going to trump that paycheck you're getting? When you come up here and floor these numbers up and throw these things up that people are supposed to believe, it's just amazing. So when are you going to actually look at what is the right thing to do for people? When the wrath of God comes down on Cammie and you guys that get the paycheck from her as well, it's going to be big trouble for you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Next speaker is Lauren Williams, followed by Ms. Veronica Branch.
Good evening, Lauren Williams, 403 South Orange Avenue. Tonight, I want to shift gears and talk about how woefully unprepared the Newark Public Schools are for the upcoming park assessment. This is particularly troubling because Newark used to be at the forefront of innovation before Cammie came to town. For example, we adopted Common Core standards in 2010 before it became state mandated. We were using Danielson's teacher observation rubric years before other districts who are just now adopting this framework. However, since Cammie's been appointed head overseer, we've been in a steady decline. Case in point, while other districts are writing and receiving $800,000 grants for Chromebooks and iPads in preparation for park, Cammie and her crew waste money on consultants. I know I shouldn't be surprised, considering Cammie spent close to 6 months analyzing letters from Birmingham jail in monthly principal meetings last school year. Instead, she could have been preparing administrators for park. Now, I'm in my 10th year of teaching, and I'm telling you that the park assessment is no joke. I actually sat down and took the 9th grade language arts practice test. After 6 questions out of the 16 in total, I was beyond frustrated. I wanted to quit and nearly have a master's degree in English. Imagine how freshmen will feel when they test this spring. This practice test was frustrating because number 1, it's not developmentally appropriate for 9th graders. And number 2, the interface isn't user-friendly. Instead of seeing the entire text on the page, students will have to continuously scroll down to read because the text is crunched into a small window. This window cannot be made larger. Furthermore, students cannot adequately mark up the text because the only annotation tools are 4 colors for highlighting. I'm sorry, but highlighting is not annotation, and it does not take the place of the valuable close reading strategies we teach. Additionally, when students are required to synthesize 3 texts, they must toggle between them instead of viewing text holistically and side by side. This design flaw impedes reading comprehension and will most definitely affect student scores. That's only one issue with the interface. Now let's talk about content. When I looked at the multiple choice answers, I wouldn't have picked any of them. This tells me that these are faulty questions. I'm running short on time, and I know this is only the tip of the iceberg, but I'm urging everyone in this room to take a practice park test online and experience the foolery firsthand. Ultimately, I firmly believe that the One Newark plan and its resulting chaos were timed perfectly to coincide with these new assessments. As a result, all parents need to opt their children out of park testing, so Cammie can't use scores as evidence of failure to further her destructive agenda. Thank you.
ChangeTheStakes.org, ChangeTheStakes.org.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next speaker, Veronica Branch, followed by Donna Jackson.
Good evening, Veronica Branch, 121 Leslie. Let me start out by saying Bregor needs to be reinstated. That's not going to stop. We need to reinstate that school to the community. Also, let me start out by shedding the truth on the Cammie lie she told in Washington. Fact, Bregor was not a failing school. Fact, Bregor budget was cut in half. Fact, Bragard students did not want to attend team, but told if they wanted to stay at that school location, they had to sign up to go to team. That's the fact. And the kids' records was compromised at Bragard School. We still don't know where those records at. Hawthorne doesn't have them. We're still waiting on information for that. So the next time Cammie shows to go and do her little interviews, for once in her life, tell the truth. So now let me stay on Cammie for a minute. I would like to say I'm glad she doesn't attend these board meetings. This only proves that we don't need her. We can get this done without her. I have a famous saying I often say, your absence has been so long, your presence doesn't matter. So Cammie, we don't need you here. So we can get this done. Now, for the board, we need to come together and be there for the children. They are the ones that matter. We can do this and get these things done for the children. The issue over at 13th Avenue School, that principal needs to go. Those children and those parents do not need to continue to be harassed by that principal. They still don't have no books. They still carrying their desks from class to class. That issue needs to be resolved. And yes, I informed the DOE as well. Another school, Behringer, those issues is still not being resolved. What is taking so long? Get the issues resolved over at Behringer. Still no schedules, no books, carrying desks. That needs to be resolved. And let me say this. For the charter lovers, when you talk about having an all-charter district, yeah, you need to take a look at New Orleans. New Orleans is ranked number 65 out of 68 in school districts. So when you want to talk about charter, you better look at the facts. They are not outperforming public schools. That is a fact. As far as Park, this board needs to stand up. Park is not for our children. We will be opting out of Park, and this board needs to get up and stand behind parents because we're not taking Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Branch. Next speaker we have is Donna Jackson, followed by Kathleen Witcher.
Good evening, everybody. Let's wake up, let's pay attention, and let's get rolling. Okay, we're not doing Park. I expect this board to take a bold stand on, well, Jesus, really? I guess that's my Thanksgiving/Christmas present. Thank you so much for the bait.
That didn't come from me, Ms. Jackson.
Yeah, Miss Martha. Thank you, Martha. Thank you.
Could we reset the clock to 3 minutes for Ms. Jackson, please?
Look at Mr. Jones. You out of order, Mr. Jones. We have to be serious about what's going on here. We are losing. Ms. Anderson is getting ready to put together her list of next 15 schools that's going to be closed. And let me just say this to the public. Stop putting on Facebook, I can't confirm it at the mayor's office. The district won't say it's true. I told you 5 years ago that they were going to do this. I'm telling you right now, they are going to do this. I am the spokesperson when it comes to education because the man upstairs done told me what the plan is, and I am to tell. He said, daughter, get to the mic, keep opening your mouth. We got to keep fighting. Yeah, only 20 people showed up to the rally yesterday, but we still had it. Bullhorn broke, but we were still out there. Had 15 police, 20 people. That's 35 people. Successful rally to me. I've had rallies before with just me. I had 35 people, law enforcement included. It was peaceful, but we did what we needed to do. We informed some people that came by that don't know what's going on, and I'm telling everybody out here that's looking at this board meeting and my board members, it's time to get to action. I know you're tired of me talking about you. I know y'all glad I'm not on Facebook, because many of you would have resigned by now. But I'm telling you, I'm getting ready to get on there. I'm getting ready to have a blog page, and there's no holds barred when I get on there. If you don't do what I know you need to do for the children of the city of Newark, you will not do anything else in this world. There's going to be a list included of staff who not going to leave Newark and go nowhere else either for the damage that they've done to the children here. And that includes past and present administration. We got some folks in this district that drank the Cory Booker, Christy Kool-Aid, have lost their mind. We have over 500 teachers being brought up on tenure charges. Board members, are y'all serious? I know you ask the necessary questions when you are behind closed doors, but I need your mouths open. I need your butts in the street. I need you on TV, and I need you saying something, because silence gives consent. Now, I have made a decision today that although I took a picture with my friend in the middle there, who normally I come to the meetings and bother, that I ain't gonna make it individual no more. I'm kicking all of y'all behinds. Because if you don't do what needs to be done, that's my job. I'm not here to be nobody's friend. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. We have 10,000 plus children right now in Newark that are not in school. And let me close with this. As Cammie has her henchmen going around from school to school, doing a classroom by classroom count, with no parental permission, as our children have already taken 4 major tests in this district with no parental permission. You guys have got to stop allowing these things to go on in these school buildings without parents knowing what's going on. When those surveyors from KIPP schools were over at Harriet Tubman, you should have stood up for the kids at Harriet Tubman. Let me end with this. This is a Newark public school board, and we will fight for our children, and don't nobody care about a charter because they got board meetings. Go over there and holler. We are standing for all the children in Newark, and I'm urging you to go get the kids that are not enrolled in school and get them in there. We got parents sending their school kids to Irvington. We got kids going to high school in New York because doors are being closed, and you know this is going on. How would a parent in Newark put their kid on a train to go to New York to go to school, and they just as bad as we are, if not worse? Y'all have got to fix this. Our children are suffering, we are losing, and this is not, I repeat, this is my closing, not going to be New Orleans. I'll be damned if that's going to happen.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Next speaker we have is Kathleen Witcher. Next speaker, Hope Jackson. Next speaker, Lucius Jones.
Mr. President, can we please make sure the time is set correctly?
Can we ensure that the clock is set for 5 minutes to accommodate Mr. Jones with his ADA accommodation?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board members, I'd like to make an announcement first. My address is also 107 Ivy Street, Newark, New Jersey. I'd like to have the public understand that the number to hold this district accountable with the state is 973-621-2750. 973-621-2750. I repeat, 973, Mr. Public, 621-2750. You need to meet with the call and file all your complaints with the county superintendent, parents, grandparents, and all the parents that have issues in the city of Newark. You need to also send your emails to the county superintendent, because what's happening here in the city of Newark is that we have taxation without representation. We also have, board members and Mr. and Mrs. Public of Newark, we have taxes going up because my homeowner's taxes have went up by $500. $500. That means that what am I getting for my extra $500? Well, this is what I'm getting, board members. I am getting frustrated. Extremely frustrated, board members. One of the reasons why I'm getting extremely frustrated, board members, because Cammie Anderson is making a fool out of the board. Every single month, we come here, we listen to the report after report after report, board members. But who is responsible on this board, and what committee is responsible for collecting all of the things that this board asks Ms. Anderson for? In addition to that, the board members, Cammie Anderson's office has not even hired a board director. So what she's saying is, I really don't care what the board thinks. I really don't care what the board does. You can call yourself a board, but she don't even see you as an advisory board, which you have a legal standing under regulations and statutes to represent. So if you're a legal board or advisory board, then under the statute and regulation, board members, you have to hold Cammie accountable. But how can you hold Cammie accountable when I get things faster from the Oprah department than the board gets from the district? How about that? That is a major problem. Because while we're sitting here talking about how much money is being spent, how much dollars are going where, people, the board members in South Orange, the board members in West Orange, and Mount Clair are talking about the student achievement gap. Because African American children in the city of Newark, an A actually means in the other part of the world, a C or a D. So my question to this board is very simply, when Cammie gets to a point where she makes the parents frustrated, how does she do that? Parent power, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Parent portal. Parents don't even have access to parent portal. We can't even determine what our children's grade is. The parents don't even we don't know if our kid are in school or out of school. You can have a meeting with a school board members and they can tell you your child has missed 15, 16, 17 days of school. And you know what happens, board members? All you get is a phone call from an answer machine. That's all you get. That means, board members, that students don't have to come to school. In addition to, we stand in University High. University High School has been watered down. Watered down. Cammie has she has lowered the standards of the school while lowering the budget. So the board members, when we talk about quality education, and I'm wrapping it, when we talk about quality education and what the board stands for, you have to find some way to connect what you're doing as volunteers. Think about it. How many hours and how many days you invest in this stuff called the board, and what your actual paycheck is. And your paycheck has to be to see children rise, to see them rise, to enjoy what we call the American dream, the opportunity that America has to offer, not just America, but around the world.
Thank you. Mr.
But when
Jones,
you don't
finish
do
your
that,
statement.
Mr. Board, I'm closing. When you don't do that, you do more serious harm to kids than any Cammie Anderson can do, because you are the people who have to ask the type of questions that needs to be answered by the district. And I'm gonna leave you with this. One thing I learned from Marion Bolden 22 years ago is called perception of power. If you perceive yourself to be less than any other board across this state, if you perceive yourself to be, then you are, and you get what you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. The next speaker we have is Julissa Vasquez. followed by Denise Cole.
Jaleesa Vasquez. Set the clock for me, please. All right, I want to start with Kansas Street School. There's no RCO sixth grade classes. We have children that's supposed to have on their IEP, they said RCO sixth grade, but they don't have that. They're on other classroom settings. According to the principal, Mr. Garrison, he says he didn't have enough fund for the Bell program this year, but we do have an after-school program. I want to know the school budget and our test scores, if I could have that. I also want to mention that I mentioned at the last board meeting about Barringer High. My sister had an issue, and I had mentioned at the last board meeting that the old principal, Cameron Reese, was getting information. She was contacted by Reuben Roberts, and he still to this day haven't reached out to her. So I'm just gonna proceed and tell my sister, hire a lawyer, because that's the best thing you could do, because you should not be having someone in that school giving out parents' information, student ID, or Social Security. And it's not only my sister, it's other parents in there. Barringer High is a chaos. There's been fights. Students still carrying their chairs to other classrooms. Not enough lunches. It's ridiculous in there. I don't know why we keep complaining, but nothing's being done. And the one thing that I want to say is that park test, I know my kids are not going to take it, and I hope that other parents agree with it, because I seen it and it's ridiculous. How are you going to ask students to take this park test, and you got rid of the computer teachers? There's a lot of schools that don't have computer teachers. Some of these students they can't even type. I have a new challenge for you, and those that have Facebook, I want you to go in tonight or tomorrow, and we're going to ask that we want to stop this One North plan. We want the immediate resignation of Cami Anderson. We want local control, and get rid of the park test. And I want to talk about University High School. My daughter attends this school. This is her second year in this school. She have a chemistry teacher that still to this day, I thought the principal was gonna get rid of her, doesn't teach. Now, why is this teacher sitting here with another teacher in this classroom? And it's a substitute teacher, and she's not doing nothing. She tells my daughter, well, I'm waiting for them to fire me. That is ridiculous. My daughter comes home and tells me that. She's like, yeah, mommy, she's waiting for her to get fired. And she tells my daughter and the rest of the class, oh, this is not like Barringer High. I wish I was at Barringer High. Well, you should have stood at Barringer High and reapplied there. And for Cami, she's not here because I found out today she was at a meeting over at Candace Street. I don't know doing what. Sussex? All right. Well, I don't know what she's doing there, but she does all these videos talking about how she's not afraid of the community. I don't see you at these board meetings. When they do rallies, I don't see you coming out and approaching the community. So if you're not afraid of us and...
Ms. Vasquez, please finish your statement.
All right, I'm about to finish. And you're not afraid of us, then show up. Take the heat, because we don't want you here. Let's get rid of Cami Anderson.
Next speaker, Denise Cole. Io Peterson. Sheila Montague. Tawanda Sheard. Hey, is Shawia over there? Shawia? She over there?
Tawanda Sheard, 93 Slide Street. I was going to talk about park, but what I'm going to talk about right now is the parents and children that did a good job going to Washington. The video of Cammie Anderson in Washington was just horrible. She talked about how Belmont Runyon parents begged her to renew their school. And when she did renew the school, they wanted to give her a party. If that is the case, where is the parents now? I don't see nobody showing up saying she's doing a good job, because she's definitely not doing a good job in my neighborhood. In my opinion, I'm glad Cammie Anderson do not attend these meetings. We do not need her here. We can conduct business of the community. This will prove that this will prove we can do this as a community, and we can go back to local control. We are not ready for park. My daughter will not be taking the park assessment test. This online test is not, I took the test and I didn't do well at all. And at Hawthorne, there is no computers for them to start taking the test. As of 2 weeks ago, the ANET test was given to children without permission from the parents. The district needs to understand that our children is more than a test score, and Bragard Avenue School needs to be reinstated. Thank you.
Next speaker is Deborah Smith Gregory, followed by Vanessa Roper. Ms. Dot, could you please,
Is the time clock set now?
okay, we got it, Mr. Jones. We good with the time set? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Deborah Smith Gregory. I serve as president of the Newark branch NAACP, 454 Washington Street, Newark. Last month, I submitted in writing a request about the busing policy, how many buses were being deployed for our schools, our children, how many children were riding the bus. It was a whole litany of information that I requested of the board, and I put it in writing. And I did not receive any kind of response saying that the information had been acquired by the board. I didn't hear anything spoken about the busing from this meeting here prior to the public participation. There was a time when I've always put my requests in writing, and there was a time when I did get some kind of response back in writing. Consequently, the board, as Mr. Jones said, has no board person. Therefore, the questions that are being asked of you, because we get to hold you accountable just as you are attempting to hold the superintendent accountable. And so we are not getting any kind of information that we can know that that how our monies are being spent. In terms of the $252,000 that you just passed for the ACT, test prep materials, it would seem to me that you would dig deeper into that amount of money to ensure that it is being used wisely. Something else that came up tonight was about everything being put in electronic mode for the educators. As a retired educator of 3 different schools, I know that oftentimes the computers are down, the smart boards aren't working. So then the question becomes, as demoralized as the teachers have become under the regime of Cammie Anderson's poor administration, how are you going to ensure that all of the teachers are properly notified? It was something that was said tonight about, well, we just want to get it passed, and we haven't quite figured out how we're going to pass this information on to teachers. To me, that is poor planning. And then the last thing, we're talking about Park, and I hear Park being mentioned. An example of the seriousness of the Park exams would be that Glen Ridge School District has suspended the midterms and the finals in order to prep for the Park. I'm not hearing the Board of Education drilling down on anything that relates to how, if you don't want the parents to opt out of Park, what are you doing to ensure that the district is doing something, whatever they need to do to ensure that our children are ready? Board members, we have to do better. All of you who are sitting up there, you are volunteering, and as Mr. Jones said, I would hope to think that you are volunteering because you want to serve our children in our community, all of our children, that you're not up there for pay. But as it looks right now, the board is being made a fool of under the direction of our current chair, because we can't get answers for our questions, and they're basic questions. They're questions about public safety, well-being, facilities, supplies. We can't get basic questions. We still live in a democracy, even though we are being treated like a colony. This is still the United States of America, and we are full American citizens. We have to do better by our children.
Thank you. Next speaker we have is Vanessa Roper. He's over there. Ms. Doc, thank you so much.
Good evening, Advisory Board. Minister Roper, 54 North 11th Street, Newark, New Jersey. I'm here today to talk about ADA accommodation for students, IEP violations, and something that is near and dear to my heart. And one of the things that concerns me is that the special education department in Newark did everything they can to destroy special education. And we have parents who have children who are in these schools, even at 13th Avenue, who need to understand their rights. If people don't provide your children with books, then why are we sending our children into this building? If your children are not receiving services in this district, why aren't we filing ADA complaints against this district? Why aren't we asking for out-of-district placements? If your child does not receive services and this district will violate your child's IEP, then your child needs to be in an out-of-district placement where they can get the services that they need. Now, the problem with the situation that we have is that we have a lot of parents who may have some information and some is not providing it to parents who need it. Now, particularly, I have a child at Horton Street School. The child's supposed to have an IEP implemented. We have a department called College and Career Readiness, which is a joke. Don't answer phone calls. Don't answer phone calls, and these are the people, and the lady assistant director, Mrs. Zahid, is supposed to be over the committee that decides whether your child gets a 504. And her office, and her office service doesn't even return phone calls. Meantime, we have children getting hurt in buildings. And nothing's being done about it. And I'm telling this to all parents, understand this one thing. If your child gets hurt in a building, you need to be filing for emergent relief to get your child out of this district. You need to be filing lawsuits against this district. The heck with Tammy Anderson and whatever her purposes is. The bottom line is about the children and the services that our children are not getting, especially the ones that have special need. And we sit up there and listen, they told me that my child has to go to a child in another area. And I told them if I rolled my child into that building in that area within 1 hour, I'll file for emergent relief. And they moved my child to where I wanted them to be moved to. Now, if you can do that for Mr. Roper, who knows his rights, why aren't you doing it for the rest of the parents? Why won't your parents stand up for yourself and stop these folks who sitting up there telling your child have to go to school cross town? You got 7 to 8-year-olds on buses now, on New Jersey transit buses, trying to make it to school because their brother and sister can't take them to school anymore. So what happens when one of those children get hurt? And we have a board who won't say anything. We need to start directing our parents to some people who could help. And as of tomorrow, I will be filing for emergent relief for the 504 for my child to have that aid placed in that classroom. I don't have to ask Cammy. I can ask an administrative law judge. And if that don't work, I can ask a superior judge. That's what needs to be done. Take these folks to court for not giving your children the services that they're supposed to get. And guess what? If you put so many lawsuits on them and give them some work to do, maybe this district will start to change. Right now, these directors need to do their job, and these assistant superintendents does nothing. This is the worst group of superintendents I've ever seen in Newark Public Schools.
Mr. Roper, can you please finish your statement?
I'm wrapping it up. Parents, listen to me and hear my voice. Those who want to file lawsuits, those who want to file those children are being violated, even regular ed, let's get together and I've already started lawsuits. And I'm ready to file some more. If you're ready for it and you want to try to complain about Cammy, then file the lawsuit and call me and I'll help you file it and we can change this district.
Mr. Roper, I'm obviously not going to comment about the lawsuit aspect, but you specifically mentioned ADA accommodations that not being met here in the district. If you could please sit tight so that we could come and get some. All right. Well, we have your information, so we need to have somebody from the district follow up with. Before we move on, there were some things that I wanted to. Mr. Jones, I will talk to you afterwards if that's okay. Ms. Doc, we want to finish the meeting. Ms. Deborah Smith Gregory, Ms. Doc, could you please allow us to finish the meeting? Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Deborah Smith Gregory, you're 100% right. You provided to me specifically, in writing, in my hand, a letter with an information request at last month's meeting. That request was forwarded to the district. However, I do take full responsibility and accountability for not conducting a proper follow-up to ensure that information had, at bare minimum, been given to me so that I could forward to you. I did have a conversation earlier with Shawea Hamilton, who serves in that capacity as the district liaison today, and I will follow up with her again tomorrow to ensure that we have that information to you by early next week. So please accept my apology. Those are things that we're trying our best to work through as a board. We recognize that we have some areas of opportunities and inefficiencies. So one step we have taken is ensuring that we've gone through and thoroughly updated our board operations manual, which clearly outlines the proper process for us to follow in terms of making information requests and the turnaround time that the district should be compliant with. So I know it's one thing for us to update the manual, but what happens with the district, right? So we've worked with Shawir Hamilton to ensure that, I don't want to call it a professional development, but somewhat of a training has occurred with the NPS leads who serve on our various committees, so that they too are in line and following the operations manual that we have and we've recently adopted. So those are things that we're working on, and I do apologize to you for that. The major item, I mean, amongst all things that we heard tonight was yeah, I don't have that any additional information that's here. I just have those names that were read off this evening. Yes, ma'am. Understood, Ms. Holder. According to the district, there was no information that was received about those lists. Ms. Holder. Ms. Holder, I'll answer your question for you right now. He's right there. I'll talk to him before he leaves tonight. Can you stick around for me, Mr. Haggerty? You want to speak to it now? Okay, no problem. If you have a question, Ms. Holder, understand you just asked something that's obviously needs to be addressed. I'm trying my best to allow Mr. Haggerty to do so at this point in time. Would you allow him to address that and answer the question you just asked? Mr. Haggerty?
If I could do two things, Mr. Chair. First, if I could, there were a number of questions and comments that came up regarding the Behringer campus, the two schools on the Behringer campus. I'd like to address a number of those that were brought up in some of the public speaking comments, as well as a question that board member Perello asked in the earlier session. And then secondly, I'd be happy to listen to the question again that you posed and answer to the best of my ability. First, there were comments made relating to persistent issues at both of the Behringer schools. I'd like to remind members in the audience that there are two schools at Behringer, so when we talk about Behringer, it's helpful to be able to distinguish between Behringer Arts and Humanities and Behringer STEAM. Many of the issues are concentrated in one of the two schools, but there's still challenges that both face. First, Chair Perrella had a concern about heat. I want to be very clear about what the heat situation was. Last Wednesday, there was a heater that went out in the library. That heater was fixed within the same school day. There was a room-by-room temperature check taken in every room to assess the situation as those repairs were made. The lowest temperature in any of those rooms was 64 degrees. So those repairs have since been made. The Behringer building is sufficiently warm and has been since the end of last week.
No, it wasn't.
Secondly,
no, it wasn't.
Ms. Holt, Mr. Haggerty, I want to stop it right here. I didn't allow Mr. Haggerty to come up here and make comments so that there could be a back and forth about this particular matter. I wanted to obviously Ms. Holder, I wanted to obviously be respectful with the fact that you had a question about what we all know to be a very, very concerning issue with our students over at Behringer High School. But this is not going to be a forum to be back and forth at this point in time. After Mr. Haggerty answers the question, if there are any additional comments or questions that you need to have or want to direct towards Mr. Haggerty, they will have to be asked to Mr. Haggerty directly on a one-on-one conversation so that we can finish and close out our board meeting for this evening. He is on record. You asked the board a question and he's responding. His word on record would mean that these are the things that he is saying and that he is saying is going on. I can't speak on the behalf of him. And again, I don't want this to be a back and forth. If there's any additional questions, I can't speak on that, and this is not the proper forum to do so. Again, Mr. Haggerty will answer the question. Okay, if you want to get the context in which he's speaking, I'll recommend that you and Mr. Haggerty go to the back of the room and have that conversation together. I think he, no, I have it. I have it. I think he knows that, Mr. Haggerty. Thank you for the attempt to answer the question. Ms. Holder, at this point in time, Rob, cut the microphone, please. If you have additional questions that need to be asked to Mr. Haggerty, please direct them to Mr. Haggerty. Understood. If you have any additional questions, I'll ask that you ask them to Mr. Haggerty directly. All right. No problem. Again, if you, Ms. Holder, if you want to have this conversation afterwards, we can. You could please feel free to wait for me to speak to me after the meeting, but we have to move on with the rest of the agenda. All right. Thank you. Duly noted.
Excuse me, Ms. Holder. Ms. Holder, respectfully speaking, I'm calling you out of order. Mr. Haggerty is not going to answer any questions. He is not a liar. He is a state official. He is not a liar. He is a state official. Brad, thank you.
Thank you. And to finish the last statement I wanted to make about the park assessment, which was obviously a common theme and something that was discussed and voiced and expressed by many parents and members of the community tonight. I think we have to be honest when we start talking about the park assessment. From a board perspective, we should have been in front of this and we should have been more versed about the implementation of park than anybody in this community. That's just the bottom line. We did have an opportunity, obviously, to get additional information as we went down and attended the annual workshop that was hosted by the New Jersey School Boards Association. And we have made requests to the district so that we can actually set up dates so that the district can come out and provide more information to the community. We do look forward to obviously having that discussion and focusing our meetings and our discussion on student achievement and not all of the other things that prevent us from doing so. That concludes our public participation for this evening.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lewis. I'm not asking you to. Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir.
Okay. Just a few things. A lot of the speakers indicated about possible school closings, and I just wanted to know from the district, since the superintendent refuses to meet with us or come to board meetings or answer our questions herself, and hides behind her designees. I need to know what is the district 2015-2014 plan. Do they plan to do any school closures? Any schools on the list? Also, any possible reduction in staff do they plan to do in 2015-2016? Anybody can answer that.
Mr. Lewis, I'm not going to answer obviously on behalf of the district, but I'll take that information and I'll forward it, appropriately.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Lewis, I'll make a record. On behalf of my colleagues, on behalf of the district, we are not going to answer any further questions. The decorum that's been displayed is what I consider to be extremely disrespectful. One of our state officials was asked to answer a question. He was attempting to do that. And in doing so, he was, his integrity was impeded, his credibility was impeded, which was unjustified. You do not have to accept an answer However, to not allow someone that has been asked by the chair of this board to provide an answer is what I am calling to be disrespectful. So I do understand the prerogative of whether or not you accept the information, but to make such denigrating remarks on behalf of my colleagues, the district for this evening, we are not answering any further questions.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, Madam General Counsel, I'm not going to accept that as a statement because the superintendent constantly disrespect us as a board.
Mr. Lewis, this is, again, going down the path with the same instance that we just saw with it becoming a back and forth. We will obviously state for the record that as a board, that's not acceptable in our positions. We take just as much heat from members of the community than any other person who comes and represents and gives any reports on behalf of the district. Now, while it is obviously, of course, the right and prerogative of that person to not answer any questions, by making a statement such as, the district will not answer any questions, it does not help any side for that matter. We recognize that there are times where we get into the heated discussions that happen. But on the matter of us being able to disagree on things and have that kind of discourse, this is the place where we should be able to do so. And unfortunately, at times, there are issues that members of the community and board are extremely passionate about. And sometimes the delivery of the message may be a little strong, but that's something that we endure and something that we deal with as board members. I would say in my position as chair, I get my head beaten every time I come here and I sound this gavel. But it doesn't give me a right to step up and say I will not answer a question on behalf of the community that I've been selected to serve, nor does it give me an opportunity to turn away from my duties or responsibilities. And by no means am I saying that to you, Mr. Haggerty, but what I'm speaking about right now is what I believe to be disposition of this organization that is constantly reflected in the actions that are taken in regards to us as board members. So without any further dialogue or discussion on it, if the district is not going to answer any questions, I don't believe that we should waste our time as board members by asking them any additional questions this evening. However, if we do have information that we want reflected in these minutes this evening, obviously board members, I welcome any board member to do so.
Mr. Chair.
Since I'm just going to put it on the record, the process, we still have students, it is true, we still have students that are not enrolled in school. I have a number of students who have been coming, parents been coming to me, asking me about transferring their students, getting their children in certain schools. Peter Chenanian, the assistant superintendent, refuses to return my phone calls, refuses to answer my text messages. I saved the text messages just to prove that I've been texting this man for the last month, calling him constantly. He have not returned my phone call. We have a student from the Ivy Hill section who's being 8 years old, being told to go all the way to First Avenue School. And she lives around the corner from Ivy Hill Elementary School. Mr. Cedar have been working on this for the last month and a half, and it's just ridiculous the amount of disrespect that we have been receiving as a board, because it makes us look powerless when families come to us and ask us to handle certain situations, and we go to the district and nothing happened. It's ridiculous. A month and a half is ridiculous for a child to be out of school. It's disrespectful for a staff member not to return a board member's phone call, text messages, emails, and Mr. Chenanian just refused to answer any of my phone calls. I will say that Mr. Senator have been answering my phone call, but I think that he's moving too slow on this process, because while this child is out of school, she's losing some valuable instruction time. So I just want to put on the record, I know that there's students that's still not in school, and the enrollment center is telling the parents one thing, and the district is telling the enrollment center another thing. We was told that all transfers are supposed to go through the enrollment center, but when a parent go to the enrollment center telling them they have to have special permission from the assistant superintendent to allow the child to go into the school. So it's a miscommunication amongst the district, and I think that needs to be resolved. Also, I believe we still need to look into attorney, get our own attorney for the board. I'm still going to keep saying that every board meeting until we say that we're going to look into the budget and hire an attorney for this board, because I believe that at the level that we're in right now, the heat that we're in right now, we need to have someone who represent us and not represent the superintendent, and that we can trust to represent us against this district.
Duly noted, Mr. Lewis. One thing I would say in response to the issues, obviously, with families in the enrollment piece, you've mentioned that the district has been moving slow on things, but if we have personal information from families and we're reporting this stuff to whatever district employee it is, and they're not responding to us in a timely manner, we as a board can't wait 3 months to come back to the meeting and say, we have to make sure that we now go to the next step, as far as the chain of command is concerned, so that it's not just resting with that one person. So if you have the personal information of all of those people, Mr. Lewis, I would appreciate if you could forward that to me so that I can intervene and do what I need to do from my perspective as a chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair Hassan. So I just want to suggest that this board, after this meeting, that we find a way that we come up with a written position on what has occurred tonight, because for any district employee or representative to make a decision that the questions of the board will not be answered is beyond unacceptable. And in that sense, it's no different than having the superintendent here. It is not acceptable, and I believe that we have to, when these things occur, we cannot accept them, and we have to let the whole world know. And I think that if it is impossible for us to even get questions answered, which has already become impossible, but if we can't even have discourse here at the board meetings, I think we have to take it directly to the governor, and we have to let everybody, this whole country, know that we're taking this to the governor, because he is the decider. He is why this is happening. He is the one who puts people in place who do this to us, and we have to if we cannot discuss things here, then we have to take them to where people will listen. And I don't mean the governor, I mean the people who are looking at the governor. We have to do that, because what has happened here tonight is beyond disgusting and disrespectful to this board, and I'm talking about cutting off answers and information and discourse from this board is not acceptable. So I'd like to say that I think that we should find a way to make a statement in writing, and maybe some discussion on in some way how we do that we not let what happened at this meeting today go unnoticed.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jackson.
I had a few issues, and I wanted to bring up, and I will also make sure that I forward it in writing via email to all appropriate persons so that we can get some answers. We need an immediate update on the enrollment center. How many families have been matched to schools? How many families are currently not enrolled into a school, and what is the correct plan to get them in school? We also need an update on the transportation system that the One Newark plan has offered. What's the update with that? We haven't had an update in quite some time. And I also need to know exactly what happened at 2 Cedar Street. And I read the email that I got concerning a gas leak that wasn't really a gas leak. I would like to know what officials were notified. Was there a CC number or an event number taken? What agency was contacted? I was told that there was an air quality report taken by the EPA. Where's that report? If the building was truly evacuated, I'm sure the state officers would have been evacuated as well. So I want to know exactly what happened at 2 Cedar Street that caused it to be closed for nearly a week. Moving on, Mr. Lewis talked about the school closings, and I also wanted to ask a question about the high-stakes tests. Are parents being notified when these tests are taking place? And are any parental consent going out as far as the high-stake tests go? And I also received information that the district was sending out mandatory surveys to students in which asks families for their social security numbers, parents' income, household size, birth dates, and whether they were employed or receiving public assistance. I would like the district to look further into this matter.
That survey, the survey part, I'll follow up and check with it definitely, but one thing we did do this year that we put forward to the district was to enroll in that community eligibility plan, which allows us to have free lunch in the high schools. To be a part of that plan, the district is not allowed to actually utilize the lunch applications as a part of that process. So if I'm not mistaken, surveys were sent out to my knowledge in place of that. So I will check and verify to make sure that that is, in fact, the survey that was being out or what it is that you're referencing.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions for business? There being none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, just. Okay, Mr. Jackson, second. Mr. Lewis, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed or abstained? Meeting adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving.